Chapter 1935. Just as Ningyu was thinking about how to resist the terrifying thunder tribulation above his head, the void not far away from him suddenly trembled, and then two martial artists quietly appeared. If Ningyu was here, he would definitely find that although these two martial artists were young, their auras were extremely powerful. Late-stage Earth-level immortal. The cultivation of these two martial artists had undoubtedly reached the terrifying late-stage Earth-level immortal. One of the martial artists' cultivation was already at the peak of the late-stage Earth-level immortal, only one step away from the real peak of the Earth-level immortal. Luo Shireha, I heard that your human immortal tribulation is extremely fierce and can kill Earth-level immortals. One of the young men in light blue clothes first looked at Ningyu, then at the man next to him, and asked, I wonder how much weaker this person's human immortal tribulation is compared to yours. Humph. The young man called Luo Shireha snorted and immediately looked straight at Ningyu. After staring at Ningyu for a while, Luo Shireha said coldly, Xiao Xian, don't be sarcastic. I know that when you were undergoing your human immortal tribulation, you were almost blasted in half by the terrifying tribulation cloud. Ha ha. Human immortal is the real threshold to step into the world of cultivation. The strength of the human immortal tribulation basically determines a person's future achievements. Xiao Xian was obviously not angry with Luo Shireha's attitude. On the contrary, Xiao Xian smiled and said, according to my observation, if this martial artist can safely pass through the human immortal tribulation, he can at least become a sky immortal in the future. Whoosh. Hearing Xiao Xian's words, even though Luo Shireha really wanted to mock him, he could not help but change his expression. The territory they were in was a powerful territory in a high-level plane. Although there was a certain gap between them and the central divine dynasty, it was many times stronger than the territory where the five-fingered immortal was. Mid-stage sky immortals were not rare in the territories they came from. What surprised Luo Shireha was that Xiao Xian actually said that this martial artist in front of him had a chance to become a sky immortal. One had to know that celestial immortals were experts who could dominate a territory. Even though their territories were filled with celestial immortals, every time an expert from a sect broke through to the celestial immortal realm, they would hold a banquet and invite the experts from the surrounding territories to celebrate. This kind of banquet could even be held for a year. Because becoming a celestial immortal was very difficult. In order to attain the heavenly immortal realm, strength alone wasn't enough. It also required great fortuitous encounters, great willpower, and great method. Are you so sure that he has the talent to become a heavenly immortal? Luo Shireha suppressed the shock in his heart and asked with a frown, even the top 10 geniuses of the longevity roll don't have a chance to become a sky immortal. Only the top 3 longevity roll have a chance to become a sky immortal. Xiao Xian rolled his eyes at Luo Shireha and said, I think you misunderstood me. I mean, if he can pass this worldly immortal tribulation, he will have a chance to become a sky immortal in the future. If he can't even pass this worldly immortal tribulation, then what's the point of talking about becoming a sky immortal? His worldly immortal tribulation isn't too strong. It's a level weaker than mine. Luo Shireha still didn't quite believe Xiao Xian's evaluation of Ningyu. Because his worldly immortal tribulation back then was at least several times stronger than Ningyu's worldly immortal tribulation. Although Ningyu's worldly immortal tribulation was powerful and could easily kill a mid-stage mortal deity, it was destined to be on a different level from his worldly immortal tribulation, which could easily kill an earth-level deity. Look again. Xiao Xian smiled and pointed at Ningyu with his right hand. Let's look. His worldly immortal tribulation can. Luo Shireha rolled his eyes and then looked at Ningyu again. Estate. This glance caused Luo Shireha to suck in a breath of cold air. Luo Shireha was shocked not because Ningyu's worldly immortal tribulation was powerful, but because he realized that there were tribulation clouds above the heads of the two martial artists behind Ningyu. Generally speaking, there shouldn't be anyone else in the tribulation. With every additional person, the power of the tribulation clouds would double. There were 2 more people behind Ningyu and they were going through the tribulation at the same time. The power of the tribulation clouds would at least increase by several times. Of course, since ancient times, Some peerless geniuses would take the initiative to invite others into the tribulation clouds when they were going through the tribulation. After all, the stronger the tribulation clouds, the more powerful the baptism would be. Therefore, all peerless geniuses would invite others into their tribulation clouds when they were going through the tribulation. Even he had invited an expert to follow him when he was going through the worldly immortal tribulation. However, Ningyu was even more perverted than he was in the past. He had only invited an expert to go through the tribulation with him, but Ningyu had invited two people who were going to go through the worldly immortal tribulation at the same time. The more he thought about it, the more terrified Luo Shireha felt. In the end, Luo Shireha even took a deep breath and stared at Ningyu. He murmured, "If he can successfully overcome the tribulation, I'm afraid his combat strength will be comparable to ours." Rumble. Ningyu had no time to care about Luo Shireha's shock. He protected Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an behind him. The vital qi in his body surged out and formed a vital qi barrier around them. Normally, the first few tribulation clouds of the human immortal tribulation were not particularly powerful. With the vital qi barrier, one could easily resist them. Ningyu's idea was to use the vital qi barrier to resist the first few tribulation clouds. He would take advantage of this time to use the art of crossing the sea to deceive the heavens. Although it was said to deceive the heavens, it was actually to let Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an enter the storage ring. He would use the art of boundless embodiment to create two people. As for the problem of aura, Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an would each force out a drop or several drops of blood essence to temporarily disguise themselves. Crack. As soon as Ningyu activated the vital qi barrier, a waist-thick tribulation cloud came crashing down. The tribulation cloud's speed was very fast. Almost in an instant, it collided with the yuan qi barrier. A crisp sound was heard. Hearing the sound, Ningyu's face turned extremely gloomy. He originally thought he could use the vital qi barrier to resist a few tribulation clouds. However, his vital qi barrier unexpectedly cracked after being hit by the first tribulation cloud. According to this situation, not to mention withstanding a few tribulation clouds, it was unknown whether he could even withstand 3 tribulation clouds. "I can't use the art of boundless embodiment anymore." Ningyu's face was ashen. The soul power in his body surged out and wrapped around his fist. In the next moment, Ningyu's feet suddenly stomped on the ground. His body rose from the ground and charged straight at the second tribulation cloud. Kai Kai. The soul power on his fist surged and rubbed against the air, emitting a hissing sound. Ningyu's goal was very clear. He directly charged into the tribulation cloud and fought with it. Chapter 1936. What is he doing? Seeing Ningyu's actions, Luo Shireha was puzzled. When others went through the great tribulation of the human immortal realm, they would usually endure it silently and let the tribulation clouds strike. But Ningyu seemed to want to fight against the tribulation clouds. "He's going to face the thunder tribulation," Xiao Xian said with a solemn expression. "Why does he want to face the thunder tribulation? Does he think he's very strong?" Luo Shireha was puzzled. No matter how powerful a peerless genius was, he had never heard of anyone who dared to face the thunder tribulation directly. Because there was no advantage in facing the thunder tribulation directly. Even if he didn't face the thunder tribulation directly, the baptism after successfully passing the tribulation wouldn't be weak. Ningyu's actions were completely unrewarding. No wonder Luo Shireha was puzzled. Xiao Xian's thoughts were obviously a little different from Luo Shireha's. Or rather, Xiao Xian had a more thorough and profound view. If they allowed the lightning tribulation to strike them one by one, it would be much easier. However, the 2 peak sages below would suffer a calamity. Obviously, the 2 peak stage sage cultivators couldn't withstand the terrifying thunder tribulation. I'm more and more interested in him now. After guessing Ningyu's true thoughts, Xiao Xian crossed his arms in front of his chest and smiled. If he can pass the great tribulation of the human immortal realm, I've decided to rope him in and give him a Xiao family token. Xiao family token? Hearing Xiao Xian's words, Luo Shireha was finally moved. The Xiao family was a big family in their territory and there was more than one sky immortal in the family. Rumor had it that only half-step sky immortals or peak-stage royal alchemists had a chance to obtain the Xiao family token. How could Luo Shirehe not be shocked when Xiao Xian said that he wanted to give the cultivator in front of him one? However, while he was shocked, Luo Shirehe shifted his gaze to the other side and reminded, "I have no objections if you want to give him the Xiao clan's command plate. However, you have to think carefully. This brat has offended more than one person." Buzz. On the other side, there was a buzzing sound in the air. There were a total of 4 cultivators in the air. In terms of cultivation level, these 4 cultivators were no weaker than Luo Shirehe and Xiao Xian. Late Earth Immortal Stage. All 4 of them were at the Late Earth Immortal realm. The hook-nosed old man and the bald man. If Human Demon were here, he would have discovered that these 4 martial artists were the 4 martial artists who had chased after him in Four Corner City. When they were in Four Corner City, the 5-finger elixir furnace sucked them in at the last moment, causing the hook-nosed old man to lose his footing. Unfortunately, there was a mark left behind by a heaven immortal from a high-level plane on Human Fiend's body. After a period of searching, the hook-nosed old man and the others finally found traces of Human Fiend. After finding traces of the Human Demon, the aquiline-nosed old man had wanted to attack the Human Demon immediately. However, Ningyu's tribulation clouds descended. The hook-nosed old man did not have the guts to rashly barge into someone else's tribulation cloud. Therefore, he decided to wait patiently until Ningyu's tribulation clouds ended. Then, he would think of a way to deal with the human devil. However, he did not stay idle. Instead, he used a special secret skill to trigger the tribulation of Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an. "I think that Ningyu will definitely be blasted to smithereens by the tribulation clouds." The bald man shrugged as he watched Ningyu rush into the tribulation clouds. "The Human Demon is in Ningyu's storage ring, so I'm sure he'll be blasted to smithereens as well. We probably won't even need to do anything. In my opinion, we should leave one person here to watch. The rest of us should rush to Thousand Demons Ridge first. I heard that Thousand Demons Ridge is about to be breached. At that time, large amounts of origin energy will be ejected. We can't miss this great opportunity." Hearing the bald man's words, the other 2 Earth Immortal Realm martial artists nodded in agreement. Although their main mission in the Immortal Spirit region this time was to kill Human Demon, coincidentally, the plane barrier was loosening and the origin energy in Thousand Demons Ridge was bursting out. They definitely wanted a share of the loot. After all, origin energy was very precious. If they could obtain some origin energy, they might even have a chance to improve further. It was not impossible for them to have a chance to touch the threshold of Heaven Immortal in the future. "How about this, you stay?" The hook-nosed old man's face was gloomy. He stared at the bald man and said, "When the time comes, all the credit for killing Human Demon will go to you." The bald man's face was a little ugly. He did not want to stay. Although Ningyu would definitely fail the tribulation, Human Demon was a heaven immortal in the past. Who knew if he had a trump card to survive? If Human Demon came back to life and he stayed, it was very likely that Human Demon would use a secret technique to kill him. "Shut up if you don't want to stay," the hook-nosed old man said coldly. "The 4 of us will guard the surroundings. As soon as Ningyu's tribulation clouds end, we will immediately attack." "Yes." The bald man and the others were shocked. Among the 4 of them, the hook-nosed old man was the strongest. It was really unwise to contradict the hook-nosed old man. Fut. At the same time, in mid-air, Ningyu had already rushed into the tribulation clouds. His hands carried a terrifying soul power fluctuation as he repeatedly bombarded the tribulation clouds. At first, Ningyu could still contend with the tribulation clouds. But as time passed, Ningyu gradually fell into a disadvantageous position. This was because the tribulation clouds were increasing in number and in the end, it had reached a horrifying level. Damn it! Ningyu forcefully dispersed a tribulation cloud and couldn't help but curse. At first, the tribulation cloud's power could kill an intermediate human immortal. However, with the passage of time, the power of the ordinary tribulation clouds had already reached the point where they could easily blast a peak human immortal. In other words, Ningyu was not fighting against the tribulation cloud, but against countless human immortal peak martial artists. Ning Yu still understood the principle of ants biting an elephant to death. A peak human immortal might not be his match, but what about 2? What about 3? What about 10? Facing so many tribulation clouds which were equivalent to the peak of human immortal, even though Ning Yu's strength was comparable to an intermediate earthly immortal expert, he faintly felt a little powerless at this moment. I have to think of a way. Ning Yu looked at the tribulation clouds rushing over, gritted his teeth, and immediately took out the 5-finger divine pill. The 5-finger divine pill was divided into 6 portions by Ning Yu. Ning Lu, human demon, Hong Mo, dark emperor, Zhao Hang, the 5 of them each had 1 portion. The last portion was kept by Ning Yu for himself. Ning Yu originally wanted to consume the 5-finger divine pill after passing the tribulation, but the current situation did not allow him to think too much. If he did not consume the 5-finger divine pill, he would probably be blasted to pieces by another dozen tribulation cloud. Devour. Ning Yu flicked his wrist and swallowed the 5-finger divine pill. Boom. Chapter 1937. Rumble. Terrifying essence chi burst out of Ning Yu's body and shot up into the sky. Ning Yu was in the middle of the tribulation clouds, so the essence chi burst out of his body and blew away the tribulation clouds around him. Originally, Ning Yu's strength was several times more difficult to deal with the surrounding tribulation clouds than it was to reach the sky. However, after swallowing the pentacle divine pill, Ning Yu's strength was enough to go against the tribulation clouds. Crack, crack, crack. Ning Yu clenched his right hand into a fist and dashed left and right in the tribulation clouds. A series of crisp sounds were heard, indicating that the tribulation clouds around Ning Yu had been blown away. Sage-grade elixir. Luo Shireha and Xiao Xian, who were not far away, were extremely shocked. Although they did not know that the elixir in Ning Yu's hands was called the Pentacle Divine Pill, they were still very sensitive to the terrifying aura that the elixir emitted. After all, the difference between a sage-grade elixir and a royal-grade elixir was so huge that Luo Shireha and Xiao Xian could tell the difference at a glance. How could he have a sage-grade elixir? Luo Shireha stared at Ning Yu and asked in confusion. He could not understand why a mid-stage human celestial like Ning Yu would have a sage-grade elixir. The appearance of a sage-grade elixir was enough to cause peak Earth celestials or even sky celestials to kill each other. To be honest, this was the first time Luo Shireha had seen a mid-stage human celestial who had a sage-grade elixir and swallowed it. Why does this elixir have the aura of the 5-fingered celestial? Xiao Xian and Luo Shireha were focused on different things. Although he had already admitted that Ning Yu was extremely talented, he was still shocked that Ning Yu had a sage-grade elixir. However, in his opinion, the reason why Ning Yu had a sage-grade elixir was most likely related to the 5-fingered celestial. Because he sensed a trace of the 5 Fingers Immortal's aura from the saint-rank medicinal pill. Even though there was a great disparity in strength between the 5-fingered immortal's territory and his own territory, the 5-fingered immortal was a saint-grade alchemist. Any saint-grade alchemist status was not inferior to that of an ordinary heavenly immortal. Before coming to the celestial spirit realm, Xiao Xian had done some research on the celestial spirit realm. The 5-fingered immortal was the first person he learned about. How could he not be shocked when he sensed a trace of the 5-fingered immortal's aura from the saint-tier elixir in Ning Yu's hand? Should we make a move? Xiao Xian and Luo Shireha could tell that Ning Yu had taken out a saint-tier medicinal pill, so naturally, the hawk-nosed old man and the bald man could tell as well. Seeing that Ning Yu had used the saint-grade elixir to easily disperse the tribulation clouds, the bald man immediately said, "Let's seize the opportunity while Ning Yu hasn't completely refined the saint-grade elixir yet." Fool. The hawk-nosed old man was so angry that his nose was crooked. Ning Yu was in the midst of the human immortal tribulation. What was the difference between barging in now and courting death? Glaring at the bald man, the hawk-nosed old man said coldly, "From now on, you are not allowed to say a word without my permission. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." The bald man opened his mouth slightly and wanted to refute, but when he saw the hawk-nosed old man's cold gaze, he chose to shut his mouth on the spot. The bald man was very self-aware. No matter how he looked at it, The hawk-nosed old man was much stronger than him. Under the threat of the hawk-nosed old man, it was better for him to stay where he was. Rumble. In mid-air, Ningyu had used the five-fingered divine elixir to disperse several tribulation clouds. Before he could even catch his breath, the void exploded and several more terrifying tribulation clouds appeared above his head. Sensing the terrifying energy contained in these tribulation clouds, even Ningyu, who had swallowed the five-fingered divine elixir, could not help but gasp at this moment. Early Earth Immortal Stage. If the tribulation clouds previously had destructive power equivalent to a peak human immortal stage martial artist, then these tribulation clouds now had destructive power equivalent to an early Earth Immortal stage martial artist. Facing tribulation clouds equivalent to a peak human immortal stage martial artist, Ningyu had swallowed the five-fingered divine elixir to deal with them. Now that he was facing tribulation clouds equivalent to an early Earth Immortal stage martial artist, Ningyu's face turned extremely ugly. I have to refine all the five-fingered divine elixir in my body as soon as possible. With a thought, Ningyu hurriedly used the spiritual transformation technique to refine the remaining five-fingered divine elixir in his body. The five-fingered divine elixir was a sage-grade elixir. No matter how fast Ningyu's devouring speed was, it was impossible for him to completely devour it in such a short period of time. In other words, there was still a large amount of the five-fingered divine elixir left in Ningyu's body. Kai. As the spiritual transformation technique was used, the five-fingered divine elixir in Ningyu's body was being refined at a terrifying speed. Boom. Just as Ningyu started to refine the remaining five-fingered divine elixir in his body, a tribulation cloud as thick as a person's waist suddenly came crashing down from mid-air. Feeling helpless, Ningyu could only speed up the process of refining the five-fingered divine elixir while wielding the red demon sword to fight against the tribulation cloud. Catcher, catcher, catcher. Ningyu's current overall strength was equivalent to an intermediate Earth Immortal stage martial artist. Even without the enhancement of the five-fingered divine elixir, he could still easily defeat an early Earth Immortal stage martial artist. The tribulation clouds around Ningyu were mostly around the early Earth Immortal stage. Naturally, they would not be able to hurt Ningyu in a short period of time. Not only were the tribulation clouds unable to hurt Ningyu, but Ningyu used the red demon sword to slash apart several tribulation clouds. Drip, drip. Time was ticking away. From the moment the second tribulation cloud descended to the moment it completely disappeared, a total of 2 hours had passed. In these 2 hours, Ningyu did not die under the bombardment of the tribulation clouds. Instead, he successfully killed several tribulation clouds. Phew. After repelling the second tribulation cloud, Ningyu could not help but let out a long sigh of relief. That was close. The second tribulation cloud was huge in number and terrifying in power. In order to resist this tribulation cloud, Ningyu did not hesitate to squeeze out all the medicinal energy from the five-fingered divine elixir. However, just as Ningyu was about to relax, his body trembled as he stared at the void above his head. Rumble. A crisp rumbling sound was heard. Then, 9 tribulation clouds as thick as a person's waist descended from the 9 heavens. What the F***CK? When he sensed the terrifying destructive force contained within every single tribulation cloud, even if Ningyu was mentally prepared in advance, he still couldn't help but gasp and curse loudly at this moment. Intermediate Earth Immortal Stage. The destructive power of each tribulation cloud was equivalent to a fully armed intermediate Earth Immortal stage martial artist. Ningyu might not have such an expression if he were to face one of the tribulation clouds alone. But how could Ningyu not be surprised to face 9 of them at once? Block them. Ningyu was not the kind of person who would retreat. He stomped his feet on the ground again and flew straight towards the 9 terrifying tribulation clouds. Ningyu was very clear that even if he consumed all the medicinal energy in the five-fingered divine elixir, it would still be difficult to face 9 intermediate Earth Immortal stage martial artists at the same time. Chapter 1938. Bang bang bang. It turned out that no matter how strong Ningyu's soul power was, he couldn't withstand the impact of 9 tribulation clouds at the same time. Even though Ningyu tried his best and burned his soul power and essence chi to withstand the tribulation clouds, he could only withstand 6 of them. The remaining 3 tribulation clouds broke through his defense and bombarded Ningyu's body. Fart. Ningyu spat out a mouthful of dark red blood on the spot after being hit by the 3 terrifying tribulation clouds, and his whole body was blasted away. Swish. Swish. When Ningyu was sent flying, the remaining 6 tribulation clouds broke through his soul power and essence chi defense and attacked him rapidly. In an instant, 6 tribulation clouds bombarded his body. Fart. 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 Ningyu opened his mouth and spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. After being hit by 9 tribulation clouds that were equivalent to a mid-stage Earth Immortal expert, Ningyu's aura dropped to the freezing point. He stood on the spot and was on the verge of collapsing. Boom. After the 9 tribulation clouds ended, the void seemed to have returned to peace. It's over. From afar, seeing that the tribulation clouds above Ningyu's head had disappeared and returned to peace, the aquiline-nosed old man frowned slightly and seemed to be a little uncertain. Although Ningyu's great tribulation of human immortal had triggered 9 tribulation clouds that were equivalent to a mid-stage Earth Immortal expert, the aquiline-nosed old man still felt that something was wrong. Go and capture Ningyu alive. There must be some sacred grade elixir pills left in his body. The bald man widened his eyes and clenched his fists tightly, wanting to rush forward. How much energy was contained in a sacred grade elixir pill? In the bald man's opinion, it was impossible for Ningyu to refine all the sacred grade elixir pills. As long as he could capture Ningyu alive and refine Ningyu on the spot, he would be able to obtain the remaining sacred grade elixir pills in Ningyu's body. You two go and test it out. This time, the hook-nosed old man didn't reprimand the bald man. Instead, he frowned slightly and shifted his gaze to the other 2 late Earth Immortal experts. Let's see if we can capture Ningyu alive. Understood. The other 2 late Earth Immortal experts nodded, and then they dashed out in unison towards Ningyu. The hawk-nosed old man's thoughts were actually biased towards Ningyu's human immortal tribulation. Otherwise, how could he have allowed his 2 companions to risk their lives? Someone's there. Ningyu wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Just as he was about to do his best to recover and prepare to resist the next round of tribulation clouds, he was surprised to find 2 cultivators rushing towards him. When Ningyu sensed 2 reckless cultivators charging at him, his pupils constricted. He had the urge to curse. It doesn't matter if you want to die, but don't drag me along. Others might not know, but as the person involved, Ningyu knew it very well. His human immortal tribulation hadn't ended yet. It was most appropriate to say that it had just begun. Get out of here if you don't want to die. Ningyu stared at the 2 late Earth Immortal experts and shouted, My human immortal tribulation hasn't ended yet. If you come in without permission, you'll definitely be smashed into pieces by the tribulation cloud. Are you dreaming? Ningyu's rebuke didn't stop the 2 late Earth Immortal experts. They just paused in mid-air for a while and sneered at Ningyu. Do you think you're the reincarnation of a Shen immortal from the 9 heavens? It's just a human immortal tribulation, but you make it sound like a celestial immortal tribulation. Oh no. However, these 2 advanced stage earthly immortal realm experts hadn't even finished speaking when their expressions turned grim. Whoosh. Whoosh. 2 terrifying tribulation clouds descended from the 9 heavens and blasted towards them. Damn it. Why hasn't his human immortal tribulation ended yet? Looking at the huge tribulation clouds that were rushing towards them, the 2 late Earth Immortal experts couldn't help but curse. They could feel that the tribulation clouds that were coming towards them were very powerful. They were equivalent to a full-force attack from a peak late Earth Immortal expert. Although they were both late Earth Immortal experts, they still had a lingering fear in the face of such terrifying tribulation clouds. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. However, what shocked them even more was yet to come. 2 tribulation clouds that were equivalent to a full-force attack from a peak late Earth Immortal expert wasn't the end, but the starting point. Then, 4 more terrifying tribulation clouds descended. The power of each tribulation cloud was no less than a full-force attack from a peak late Earth Immortal expert. Crack. There was even an explosion in the void, and a tribulation cloud that was several feet thick gradually appeared in the sky. Ah! Miserable shrieks came out from the mouths of the two late Earth Immortal experts. Facing 6 terrifying tribulation clouds, the two late Earth Immortal experts didn't last long before they were drowned in the tribulation clouds. Exceptional Earth Immortal expert. Ningyu's attention wasn't on the two late Earth Immortal experts. What he was concerned about was the tribulation cloud that appeared in the void. This tribulation cloud should be the last tribulation cloud of the human immortal tribulation. As long as he could successfully resist the impact of this tribulation cloud, his human immortal tribulation would be completely over. How could there be a tribulation cloud of the exceptional Earth Immortal expert? Luo Shireha and Xiao Xian, who were in the distance, opened their mouths slightly and their faces were full of surprise. When they were undergoing their human immortal tribulation, the most powerful tribulation cloud was only a mid-stage Earth Immortal expert's tribulation cloud. It was the first time they had seen a tribulation cloud of the exceptional Earth Immortal expert like Ningyu did. It must be the last 2 martial artists who rushed in rashly, causing the power of the human immortal tribulation to increase several times. Xiao Xian said in a deep voice as he could see more clearly. Under normal circumstances, the power of the last tribulation cloud of Ningyu's human immortal tribulation should be around the late-stage Earth Immortal level. But now, the 2 martial artists rushed in rashly, causing the power of the human immortal tribulation to increase several times. He's probably done for. Luo Shireha shook his head slowly. He didn't think that Ningyu could withstand the last tribulation cloud. Sigh. Apart from Luo Shireha, even Xiao Xian, who was extremely optimistic about Ningyu, sighed and expressed his agreement. If Ningyu was able to withstand the tribulation cloud of the perfection stage earthly immortal realm, then wouldn't it mean that if he was able to successfully overcome the tribulation of the human immortal realm, then advancing to the heavenly immortal realm in the future would be a sure thing? Let's go all out. Looking up at the huge tribulation cloud that had formed, Ningyu took a deep breath as if he had made a big decision. Against such a terrifying tribulation cloud, Ningyu knew that it was almost impossible for him to withstand it with the strength of his essence qi and soul force. Under such circumstances, he only had one way. That was to use the boundless embodiment technique to create a fake of himself and let the fake him resist the tribulation cloud. This was very risky. If he failed, he would fall into a state of eternal damnation and be directly smashed into pieces by the tribulation cloud. But if he succeeded, the benefits he would gain would be huge. Chapter 1939. Myriad Embodiment Transformations. Ningyu was not an indecisive person. With a thought, he executed the myriad embodiment transformations on the spot. Buzz. Following the execution of the myriad embodiment transformations, Ningyu's body began to spin at an extremely terrifying speed. Moreover, Ningyu's spinning became faster and faster. In the end, gusts of strong winds formed around Ningyu's body, practically enveloping Ningyu from all directions without any blind spots. Before long, a martial artist that looked extremely similar to Ningyu suddenly appeared beside Ningyu. 2 Ningyus. Seeing the martial artist beside Ningyu, the hook-nosed old man and the bald man were very puzzled. Because no matter how they looked at it, the martial artist beside Ningyu was no different from Ningyu. In fact, it was even more realistic. Crack. At this moment, the tribulation cloud that was several jong thick suddenly descended from midair, ruthlessly blasting towards Ningyu. Crossing the sea by deception. Looking at the huge tribulation cloud rushing towards him, Ningyu leaped up and merged with the clone beside him. Boom. Just as Ningyu merged with the clone, the huge tribulation cloud descended and blasted the clone's head. Poof. The instant the tribulation cloud and the clone's head came into contact, it exploded. The huge explosion caused the clone's head to explode on the spot, turning it into a bloody mess. Retreat. Ningyu's mind was highly focused. The instant the clone's head exploded, he hurriedly dashed out of the clone's body and took out the Tower of Yuzu. Ningyu had changed his mind now. Initially, he wanted to use the clone to cross the sea by deceiving the heavens. But as the tribulation cloud descended, he suddenly changed his mind and decided to capture this terrifying tribulation cloud and bring it into the Tower of Yuzu. One had to admit that Ningyu's idea was very bold and imaginative. Get in. Ningyu summoned the Ascension Pagoda and opened it with his mind. What happened next made everyone a little dumbfounded. The tribulation cloud, which was several feet thick, actually entered the Tower of Ascension. That pagoda will definitely be destroyed. This thought appeared in the minds of the hook-nosed old man and Luo Shireha. After all, how could a tribulation cloud with a might comparable to a perfection stage earthly immortal realm be trapped by a random magic treasure? Even if Ningyu used the Tower of Ascension to trap the tribulation clouds, he would not be able to enjoy the baptism of the lightning tribulation. Passing the tribulation was secondary. The true baptism of the lightning tribulation was the most important thing. However, what Luo Shireha and the hook-nosed old man expected did not happen. On the contrary, Ningyu kept the Yuzuan pagoda and soared into the sky. Thunder Calamity Pool. Luo Shireha, the hook-nosed old man, and the others were dumbfounded when they saw a huge pool suddenly appear in midair. They knew very well what the appearance of the Thunder Calamity Pool meant. The appearance of the Thunder Calamity Pool meant that Ningyu would receive the baptism of the Lightning Tribulation Fluid. The Lightning Tribulation Fluid was the dream of every person who had experienced the tribulation of the earthly immortal realm. Generally speaking, not everyone who went through the tribulation would have the chance to have the Lightning Tribulation Fluid. For example, the hook-nosed old man and the bald man had never seen the Thunder Calamity Pool or the Lightning Tribulation Fluid. Luo Shireha and Xiao Xian were slightly stronger. They were the geniuses of their respective families or sects, peerless experts at the top of the longevity roll. The Thunder Calamity Pool and the Lightning Tribulation Fluid had appeared in their earthly immortal realm. However, the Thunder Calamity Pool that appeared during their tribulation was only the size of a bowl. There was only 1 or 2 drops of the Lightning Tribulation Fluid. Ningyu's Thunder Calamity Pool was enough to accommodate a martial artist to bathe in it. How much Lightning Tribulation Fluid was there? Luo Shireha and Xiao Xian did not dare to think about it, nor could they imagine it. Ha ha ha. Ningyu laughed and leaped into the sky. He stepped on the magic cloud and charged into the Thunder Calamity Pool. Gulp, gulp, gulp. After rushing into the Thunder Calamity Pool, Ningyu opened his mouth and drank the Lightning Tribulation Fluid in big mouthfuls. Go. We can't let him enjoy it alone. Quick, the Lightning Tribulation Fluid is good stuff. We must snatch it. The hook-nosed old man and the bald man went crazy. It was the first time they had seen so much Lightning Tribulation Fluid. When Ningyu was going through the tribulation, they did not dare to rush up. Now that the tribulation cloud was over and it was time to enjoy the fruit, how could they stay where they were? Even if they could snatch a mouthful of the Lightning Tribulation Fluid, the benefits would be immeasurable. Should we go up and get a share? Seeing the hook-nosed old man and the bald man rush up, Luo Shireha frowned slightly and looked at Xiao Xian next to him and asked. So much Lightning Tribulation Fluid, even a real sky immortal would be tempted, let alone Luo Shireha who was a late-stage Earth immortal warrior. Wait a little longer, Xiao Xian said in a deep voice. For some reason, ever since Ningyu went through the great tribulation of man deity, he always felt that Ningyu was not simple. The Lightning Tribulation Fluid was naturally very tempting to him. But on this matter, he chose to wait and see for the time being. After all, Ningyu had given them too many shocks. Just when they all thought that Ningyu's great tribulation of man deity was about to end, a few terrifying tribulation clouds appeared in the air inexplicably. Moreover, these tribulation clouds were powerful enough to kill 2 late Earth immortal experts. Now that Ningyu was enjoying the Lightning Tribulation Fluid in the Thunder Calamity Pool, his idea was to wait and see first to see the situation of the hook-nosed old man and the bald man. Although the Lightning Tribulation Fluid was precious, one had to be alive to get it. That is the Lightning Tribulation Fluid. If each of us can get a cup, we can even advance several ranks on the longevity roll. Xiao Xian's reaction obviously made Luo Shireha a little excited. His name wasn't very high on the longevity roll. Once he could get a cup of the Lightning Tribulation Fluid, he could at least advance several ranks on the longevity roll. By then, he would even have a chance to become a sky immortal. His strength is not simple. With our current strength, we may not be his match. Xiao Xian shook his head and warned solemnly, if you want the Lightning Tribulation Fluid, I advise you to treat him with respect and exchange with something. If you rush up rashly, it is very likely that you will become his enemy. An enemy is an enemy. In front of the lightning tribulation fluid, I don't mind being his enemy. Luo Shireha's eyes burst out a terrifying light, then he immediately stepped on the ground and quickly rushed towards Ningyu. Ah, I hope you don't regret it. Xiao Xian looked at Luo Shireha, who was constantly rushing towards Ningyu, sighed and murmured. Xiao Xian could not change what Luo Shireha did. All he could do was choose to be on good terms with Ningyu and do everything possible to help Ningyu. Ningyu's tribulation here caused a great commotion. He believed that not long after, there would be some people around to watch the show. When those people came to watch the show, their first thought would probably be the same as Luo Shireha and the hook-nosed old man, to snatch the lightning tribulation fluid. Xiao Xian's idea was not to help Ningyu deal with those people, but to protect the two warriors who had advanced to the early-stage Earth Immortal realm not far away. Chapter 1940. To be honest, both Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an were dumbfounded. Their human immortal tribulation had appeared out of nowhere and they had successfully advanced to the early human immortal stage. Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an exchanged glances when they felt the terrifying power in their bodies. They could see the disbelief in each other's eyes. We've advanced to the human immortal stage just like that? Yi Jiansong asked. That's right. We've advanced to the human immortal stage. Meng Chang'an nodded and shifted his gaze to Ningyu, who was hovering in mid-air. He said, "We have to thank Ningyu. If it wasn't for him, we would have died in the tribulation clouds. Yes, we have to thank Ningyu. After all, it's not good." Yi Jiansong nodded when he heard Meng Chang'an's words. He wanted to express his gratitude to Ningyu. However, his expression changed drastically when he was halfway through his sentence. It was because he saw the old man with the aquiline nose and the bald man charging at Ningyu. They had seen the two advanced Earth Immortal stage martial artists who were killed by the lightning tribulation. They were very worried at that time. How could they not be surprised when they saw the old man with the aquiline nose and the bald man charging at Ningyu? Ningyu, be careful. In the midst of the shock, Meng Chang'an and Yi Jiansong didn't forget to remind the others loudly. In the lightning tribulation pool, Ningyu swallowed a few mouthfuls of the lightning tribulation liquid. He looked at the old man with the aquiline nose and the bald man coldly and snorted, "There's a path to heaven, but you chose to barge into hell. Today, I'll show you what true strength is. Break through." Ningyu waved his hands and suddenly stood up from the lightning tribulation pool. As Ningyu stood up, a terrifying aura surged out from his body. Bang! Bang! Two muffled sounds were heard. Ningyu's aura had risen from the intermediate human immortal stage to the paramount human immortal stage. Before his worldly immortal tribulation, Ningyu was in the intermediate worldly immortal stage. After the worldly immortal tribulation ended, Ningyu was not in a hurry to raise his cultivation level. Instead, he wanted to baptize himself in the lightning tribulation fluid. However, the aquiline-nosed old man and the bald man's sudden attack caused him to change his strategy. He would first raise his cultivation, then deal with the aquiline-nosed old man and the bald man. Finally, he would go collect the lightning tribulation liquid. "Even if you break through to the Earth Immortal stage, I can still kill you with a flip of my hand, let alone a breakthrough to the full circle human immortal stage." Even though Ningyu had advanced to the perfected human immortal realm, the hook-nosed old man still did not take Ningyu seriously. The aquiline-nosed old man was at the late earthly immortal stage, so why would he worry about a mere martial artist at the great circle of the human immortal stage? Human immortal great circle, enough to kill you. A cold glint shot out from Ningyu's eyes. Soon after, he gripped the red demon sword and charged towards the hook-nosed elder. Slash! Along with a low shout, a sword radiance separated from the red demon sword and slashed at the hook-nosed elder rapidly. Child's play. Facing the sword radiance that was constantly charging at him, the hook-nosed elder flicked his sleeve and casually threw out a cold radiance, trying to block the sword radiance that Ningyu slashed out. Crack. The ideal was great, but the reality was harsh. The moment the cold radiance that the hook-nosed elder unleashed came into contact with the sword radiance that Ningyu slashed out, A cracking sound was heard and it shattered. Hey! The shattering of the cold radiance caused the hook-nosed elder to raise his eyebrows, feeling a little surprised. The hook-nosed elder was very confident in the cold radiance that he unleashed. Even though he could not kill a late earthly immortal stage martial artist, it was still easy for him to kill an early earthly immortal stage martial artist. But now that the cold radiance that he unleashed to deal with the sword radiance that Ningyu had unleashed, he did not gain the upper hand. How could he not be surprised? Not bad, huh? I wonder if you can withstand my second attack. The hook-nosed elder lifted the corner of his lips into an arc. Then, he flicked his sleeve and unleashed the second cold radiance. Swoosh. However, just as the hook-nosed elder unleashed the second cold radiance, he noticed that Ningyu had turned his head and was charging to the other side. Trying to escape. Ningyu's action caused the hook-nosed elder to be slightly startled. Then, he said disdainfully, "I knew that you." As the hook-nosed elder's questioning voice was heard, he noticed something extremely shocking. Ningyu did not intend to escape, but turned around to deal with the bald man. Anyone who dares to touch the lightning calamity pool must die. Ningyu held the red demon sword and charged straight at the bald man who was about to reach the lightning calamity pool. Ha ha ha, the lightning calamity fluid is mine. Seeing that he was about to grab the lightning calamity pool, the bald man could not help but laugh. However, not long after he finished laughing, he discovered something terrifying. Ningyu held the red demon sword and had already arrived in front of him. He stood between him and the lightning calamity pool. "Get lost!" the bald man yelled. He clenched his right fist and wanted to push Ningyu back. Crack! The bald man had just extended his right hand when he realized that Ningyu was holding the red demon sword and was slashing at his wrist. A crisp sound was heard. Ah! Then, a pig-slaughtering scream came from the bald man's mouth. What's going on? The sudden change caused the hook-nosed elder's pupils to shrink as he exclaimed. You. The bald man looked at his broken right hand and looked at Ningyu in front of him. Even his voice was trembling. He had never thought that Ningyu would be able to chop off his right hand. "I don't have time for you." Ningyu's attention was not all on the bald man. He divided his attention into 4 portions. 1 portion was placed on the bald man. 1 portion was placed on the hook-nosed elder. As for the last 2 portions, he placed them on Luo Shireha. In the void, Luo Shireha's expression became very ugly. He originally wanted to make a forceful move and snatch the lightning calamity fluid. But he did not expect that Ningyu defeated the bald man in 3 moves. Under this sort of situation, he naturally had to reconsider. It was still alright if he could kill Ningyu in 1 blow. But if he could not kill Ningyu, he might ultimately fall into an irrecoverable situation. Should I make a move or not? Luo Shireha clenched his fists tightly. He was having an intense mental struggle in his heart. If he made a move, he did not have 100% confidence in killing Ningyu. If he did not make a move, he could not forget about the lightning calamity fluid. The lightning calamity fluid is good stuff. If I miss this opportunity, there won't be another one. Luo Shireha seemed to have made a very big decision. His eyes were cold as he charged out. Without a doubt, his target was Ningyu. Only by getting rid of Ningyu could he snatch the lightning calamity fluid. Sigh, you still made a move in the end. Not far away, Xiaoxian could not help but sigh and shake his head when he saw that Luo Shireha still charged towards Ningyu in the end. After exchanging blows with Ningyu and the bald man, Xiaoxian was almost certain that Ningyu's current true combat power, even if it was not at the perfected Earth Immortal level, it was already infinitely close to it. Chapter 1941. Brat, hand over the lightning tribulation fluid and I can spare your life. Since he had decided to make a move to snatch the lightning tribulation fluid, Luo Shireha's speed was extremely fast, appearing in front of Ningyu in the blink of an eye. Luo Shireha's right hand clenched into a fist, looking like he was about to punch towards Ningyu. Luo Shireha's attitude was very clear. If Ningyu handed the lightning tribulation fluid to him, everything would be fine. But if Ningyu refused to come to his senses and refused to hand over the lightning tribulation fluid, then he would be ruthless and kill Ningyu on the spot. Who do you think you are? to be fit to speak to me like this. Ningyu looked at Luo Shuehe coldly and said darkly, if you want the lightning tribulation fluid, you can go and transcend the human immortal tribulation yourself. Coming to snatch mine, what kind of ability is that? He. Hearing Ningyu's words, Luo Shuehe smiled strangely and said sinisterly, who cares if it's a black cat or white cat, the cat that catches the mouse is a good cat. The lightning tribulation fluid is a good thing. A martial artist at the perfected human immortal realm like you isn't fit to possess so much lightning tribulation fluid. Before making a move, Luo Shuehe still had some reservations. After all, the power of Ningyu's human immortal tribulation was simply too strong. Furthermore, Ningyu advanced from the mid-stage human immortal realm to the perfected human immortal realm in such a short time. He was worried that he wasn't Ningyu's match and would lose his footing. Therefore, he did not make a move right away, but wanted to use words to convince Ningyu. If Ningyu's performance was a little stronger and attacked him directly, he might still have some reservations. But Ningyu's performance was truly too disappointing. Ningyu actually berated him? Could it be that Ningyu thought that a simple berating could make him back off in the face of difficulties? The answer was clearly no. Remember, the name of the person who killed you is Luo Shuehe. The corners of Luo Shuehe's mouth curled up. He first spoke to Ningyu, then turned his head to look at Xiao Xian, who was in the sky not far away. Brother Xiao, the facts have proven that you've made a mistake today. I'll kindly accept all of this tribulation lightning liquid. Xiao. The moment he finished speaking, the Luo River rose from the ground and charged at Ningyu with incredible speed. In Luo Shuehe's opinion, Ningyu was an embroidered pillow, pleasant to look at but useless. Although he had repelled the hook-nosed old man and the bald man, his true battle prowess should be more than a level lower than his. Because with his combat strength, he would be able to kill the hook-nosed old man and the bald man within 10 moves. Could it be that I really misjudged him? Xiao Xian frowned. This was the first time he doubted his judgment. To be honest, he also wanted the thunder tribulation liquid very much. If he hadn't judged that Ningyu was extremely powerful, he would have definitely tried to snatch it. However, Ningyu's performance now made him a little disappointed. Wait a little longer. Taking a deep breath, Xiao Xian stared at Ningyu and the Luo River who were about to collide, wanting to confirm his judgment once again. There's a path to heaven, but you refuse to go. There's no door to hell, but you barge in. Looking at the Luo River that was getting closer and closer to him, Ningyu finally got angry. The reason why he didn't use his full strength right away was that he had split his attention to pay attention to the hook-nosed old man and the bald man. No matter what, the hook-nosed old man and the bald man were late-stage Earth immortal martial artists and their combat strength was not weak. Now that Luo Shuehe was bullying him, Ningyu immediately decided to give up on the hook-nosed old man and the bald man and turn to deal with Luo Shuehe. Red Demon Sword. Ningyu held the red demon sword and shouted. Swoosh. As Ningyu shouted, a cold light suddenly shot out from the storage ring. Without a doubt, this cold light was the red demon. The red demon drew a mark in the air and entered the red demon sword in the blink of an eye. Without the red demon sword's power would be reduced by a level. Only when the red demon and the red demon sword fused together could the red demon sword be considered a true sage flying sword, a mid-grade sage flying sword. Slash. Ningyu's body surged with primordial chi and injected it all into the red demon sword. He slashed at Luo River. Whoosh. The power of Ningyu's sword could be said to be extremely powerful. The void trembled and finally, a huge gap appeared in the middle. The sword beam that was as thick as a person's waist cleaved through space and directly attacked the Luo River. What? Seeing the sword light appear in mid-air, even though Luo River knew how terrifying Ningyu was, he couldn't help but exclaim. He thought that he had overestimated Ningyu, but who would have thought that he still underestimated Ningyu? Merely based on this sword light that Ningyu slashed out, Ningyu's combat strength was approaching the perfection stage of the earthly immortal realm. I'm not his match. Luo Shuehe made a decision almost instantly. His cultivation base was only at the late earthly immortal stage, a step away from the peak of the earthly immortal stage, let alone the great circle of the earthly immortal stage. The earthly immortal realm was divided into early earthly immortal realm, mid-earthly immortal realm, late earthly immortal realm, peak earthly immortal realm, and great circle earthly immortal realm. Among them, a perfected earth immortal was also known as a half-step heaven immortal. The power of Ningyu's sword strike was close to that of a half-step heaven immortal. It was equivalent to a full-powered strike from a half-step heaven immortal. Even the top 3 geniuses on the longevity roll might not be able to do that. Luo Shireha was extremely shocked. Each of the top 3 geniuses on the longevity roll had the potential to become a sky immortal. In the past, Luo Shireha had the honor of meeting the 3rd genius on the longevity roll. Now, facing Ningyu, Luo Shireha felt more pressure than facing the 3rd genius on the longevity roll. Damn it! Luo Shireha knew that it was too late to run away. The only thing he could do now was to take on Ningyu's attack head-on. Luo Shireha knew that Ningyu was only a perfection stage mortal deity, and he could only use this attack once. In other words, if he could block the attack from Ningyu, then Ningyu would be a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Luo Divine Fist. Taking a deep breath, Luo Shireha's body expanded and a faint purple aura appeared on his fist. He threw a punch at the giant sword aura in front of him. Crack! As soon as the fist and the sword aura came into contact, there was a crisp sound. Then, Luo Shireha was sent flying and landed heavily on the ground. Fart! Blood spurted out of Luo Shireha's mouth and his breath was weak. Ha ha ha. Although his breath was weak, Luo Shireha managed to block the sword aura from Ningyu. Luo Shireha wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and struggled to get up from the ground. He laughed wildly and said, "Kid, that sword aura must be your trump card, right? Let's see what else you can do now. Now kneel down and kowtow to me a few times, and I can consider sparing your life. Otherwise, I'll skin you alive, pull out your tendons, and refine you into a puppet. I'll make you my slave for all eternity," Luo Shireha said proudly. He thought that Ningyu would only be able to use his most terrifying sword aura once. Even though his breath was weak, he still managed to block the sword aura that was equivalent to a half-step sky immortal. Chapter 1942. Idiot. Ningyu glanced at Luo Shireha, then ignored him and rushed towards the lightning pool. It wasn't that Ningyu didn't want to kill Luo Shireha, but he needed to get back to the lightning pool as soon as possible and get rid of the old man and the bald man. These 2 people were the cancerous tumors. Ningyu didn't want the aquiline-nosed old man and the bald man to steal the lightning tribulation pond while he was fighting with Luo Shireha. What? You said I'm an idiot? Luo Shireha was so angry that his nose became crooked when he heard Ningyu's evaluation of him. His eyes widened and he said coldly, "Today, I will let you know what true strength is. Don't think that you're invincible just because you can unleash a sword light that's equivalent to the full power of a half-step heaven immortal. To tell you the truth, that's because I didn't." However, Luo Shireha's words stopped abruptly halfway through his sentence. This was because something that he found extremely inconceivable had happened ahead of him. Ningyu wielded the red demon sword and slashed out 2 rays of sword light. Whoosh! Whoosh! 2 streaks of sword radiance flew side by side towards the hook-nosed old man and the bald man at the same time. Luo Shireha opened his mouth slightly, his face was filled with disbelief. At this moment, even if Luo Shireha was an idiot, he could tell the power of the 2 rays of sword light that Ningyu slashed out. The power of the 2 terrifying rays of sword light wasn't any weaker than the one that attacked him just now. Luo Shireha couldn't understand it no matter how hard he tried. Ningyu was only a great perfection stage human immortal. How could he unleash sword light that was equivalent to the full power of a half-step heaven immortal? It was fine if he could unleash 1 ray, but he could unleash 3 in a row. How could he not be shocked? Shit. In mid-air, the old man and the bald man's pupils shrank and their faces turned green. They saw it clearly when Ningyu was dealing with Luo Shireha. Like Luo Shireha, they thought that Ningyu could no longer unleash a sword beam that was equivalent to the full force strike of a half-step heaven immortal. Who would have thought that Ningyu would slash out such a terrifying sword light? Split up and run. The hook-nosed old man and the bald man's first thought was to escape, not resist. They were very self-aware. Even Luo Shireha could barely block the sword light, let alone the two of them. If they split up and ran, there would still be a chance of survival. Staying here would only mean death. Kai. However, the hook-nosed old man and the bald man had clearly underestimated the power of Ningyu's sword ray. The sword radiance seemed to have a tracking function. As they fled in different directions, the sword radiance also split up and chased after them, locking onto them tightly. Ah! The hook-nosed old man and the bald man's escape did not last long before they were interrupted by two screams. Without a doubt. Their speed was not as fast as the sword light, and in the blink of an eye, the sword light had caught up with them. Facing two sword lights that were equivalent to the full force strike of a half-step heaven immortal, how could the two of them resist? Screams like pigs being slaughtered constantly came out of the hook-nosed old man and the bald man's mouth. Hair! The sword radiance dissipated, and Ningyu could not help but frown when he saw the hook-nosed old man and the bald man falling to the ground. With the density of the Yuan Qi in his body, being able to cast 3 sword radiances was already the limit of his limit. Even if the sword radiance did not kill the hook-nosed old man and the bald man, he had to give up and jump into the lightning pool, gulping down the lightning tribulation liquid. Plop! Seeing Ningyu jump into the lightning pool, Luo Shireha and the hook-nosed old man rolled their eyes and had a vague guess in their hearts. Casting the sword radiance thrice might be Ningyu's limit. Swish! Swish! Moving their feet, Luo Shireha, the hook-nosed old man and the bald man, the 3 of them did not give up and quietly gathered together while Ningyu was swallowing the lightning tribulation liquid. Luo Shireha even sent a soul message to Xiao Xian: if you make a move now, there is a 99% chance of killing Ningyu and snatching the lightning tribulation liquid. I advise you to leave. Through the 3 sword radiances that Ningyu slashed out consecutively, Xiao Xian had already roughly judged Ningyu's strength. Of course, the strength that Xiao Xian judged was only before Ningyu swallowed the lightning tribulation liquid. Now that Ningyu had swallowed a large amount of lightning tribulation liquid, his strength had increased exponentially. Just now, if he and Luo Shireha attacked together to deal with Ningyu, there might be a chance of success. As for now, if he dared to make a move, the final outcome would definitely be death. So timid, no wonder you're being targeted everywhere in the Xiao family. Hearing Xiao Xian's advice, Luo Shireha snorted coldly, then ignored Xiao Xian and started to discuss with the hook-nosed old man and the bald man on how to deal with Ningyu. Sigh, good advice is unpleasant to the ear, bitter medicine is good for the illness. Seeing that Luo Shireha was still going his own way, Xiao Xian sighed and muttered, everyone says that Luo Shireha is arrogant and conceited. I didn't believe it in the past, but today, it seems that it is indeed so. Xiao Xian had already made up his mind. He wanted to completely cut off all relations with Luo Shireha and the Luo family. Because in his opinion, it was not wise for Luo Shireha to offend Ningyu today. A terrifying genius like Ningyu was definitely the disciple or son of a big shot in a higher plane. Offending Ningyu was extremely likely to be offending a sky immortal. Lightning tribulation liquid. Xiao Xian quickly retracted his thoughts and stared at Ningyu in the thunderbolt pool, his eyes filled with envy. There was so much lightning tribulation liquid, if he could get a cup, it would be a great benefit to him. Gulp. In the air, within the thunderbolt pool. Ningyu's focus was not on Luo Shireha or the hook-nosed old man. On the contrary, Ningyu placed most of his attention on Xiao Xian. In Ningyu's opinion, Xiao Xian was much stronger than Luo Shireha. If Xiao Xian attacked from the start, he might not be able to withstand it. So before he completely enjoyed the lightning tribulation liquid, he had to be wary of Xiao Xian, in case Xiao Xian suddenly attacked. Crack, crack, crack. As Ningyu continued to devour, the lightning tribulation liquid in the thunderbolt pool decreased and his aura became more and more powerful. Although his cultivation was still at the perfected human immortal stage, Ningyu's combat power had increased by several times. Strictly speaking, Ningyu could cast 3 sword rays that were equivalent to a half-step sky immortal's full power attack. Now, he could cast 30 sword rays. Continue devouring. Ningyu ignored the cracking sounds coming from his body and continued to devour the lightning tribulation liquid with all his might. The effect of the lightning tribulation liquid was extremely powerful. Ningyu's body had actually been tempered several times. Once when he was in the body-tempering realm, true dragon blood, Chilean blood, world tree, after so many times of body tempering, the impurities in Ningyu's body had become very few. But now, Ningyu actually felt a large amount of impurities emerging in his body. Attack. Chapter 1943. Humph. I knew you wouldn't give up. Seeing Luo Shireha and the hook-nosed old man charging at him, Ningyu snorted coldly and dashed out of the thunderbolt pool. The violent yuan qi in his body surged and poured into the red demon sword. Then, Ningyu waved the red demon sword and slashed out another terrifying sword light. Kai. Kai. The friction between the sword light and the air produced a hissing sound. What? Luo Shireha and the hook-nosed old man turned pale with fright when they saw Ningyu's sword light. What surprised them was not that Ningyu could still slash out another sword light, but that compared to the previous sword light, the power of this sword light was even greater. The sword light that Ningyu had slashed out last time was equivalent to the all-out attack of a martial artist who had just reached the half-step heavenly immortal realm. But this time, the power of the sword light was equivalent to the all-out attack of a martial artist who had been in the half-step heavenly immortal realm for many years. After all, there were differences in strength among half-step heavenly immortals. Some were strong, some were weak. The strongest half-step heavenly immortal might even have a chance of escaping from a heavenly immortal expert. The reason why Luo Shireha and the aquiline-nosed old man dared to join forces to deal with Ningyu was because they had discussed it and felt that if the three of them combined their trump cards, they would be able to block Ningyu's sword beam. But now that they saw the power of Ningyu's sword light, they instantly made a decision. Run. Run at all cost. As the saying went, where there is life, there is hope. As long as they could escape this calamity, there would be opportunities to take revenge on Ningyu in the future. Can you escape? Ningyu looked at the fleeing Luo Shireha and the hook-nosed old man. He waved the red demon sword in his right hand and slashed out several more sword lights. Whoosh! The sword lights separated from the red demon sword as if they were worthless and rushed towards Luo Shireha and the hook-nosed old man. Before long, Luo Shireha and the hook-nosed old man were engulfed by the terrifying sword lights. Hiss! The sudden change caused Xiao Xian, who was not far away, to inhale a breath of cold air. Xiao Xian knew that the Luo River was finished. No matter how powerful Luo Shireha was, there was no way he could be stronger than the top 5 martial artists on the longevity roll. Ningyu's sword aura alone was enough to put him in the top 5 or even the top 3 of the longevity roll. Ka. It turned out that Xiao Xian's judgment was accurate. Under the bombardment of several sword lights, Luo Shireha and the aquiline-nosed old man only managed to hold on for 3 minutes before all the bones in their bodies shattered and they were reduced to nothingness. Sigh, what a pity. Ningyu shook his head and sighed when he saw Luo Shireha, the hook-nosed old man, and the others being blasted to smithereens. He had advanced to the great circle of the human immortal stage, and he had a large amount of lightning tribulation liquid to devour and refine, so he didn't really need to devour the Luo River and the aquiline-nosed old man. But Ninglu and the Dark Emperor needed it. Ningyu could almost imagine that when Ninglu found out what happened here, he would definitely question him. I'd better continue to seal the storage ring for a while. Ningyu thought to himself as he jumped into the thunderbolt pool. In order not to implicate the human demon and Ninglu when he transcended the human immortal tribulation, Ningyu completely sealed his storage ring. To be precise, since Ningyu started his tribulation, the storage ring had only been opened once, and it was only for a short period of time, just to call out the Red Fiend. Other than that, he had sealed the storage ring perfectly, so Ninglu and the Dark Emperor didn't know what was happening outside. Gulp! In the thunderbolt pool, Ningyu continued to devour the lightning tribulation liquid. Although the effect of the lightning tribulation liquid on Ningyu's strength was negligible, it was still a great improvement for body tempering. What a waste of God's gift! In the distance, Xiao Xian saw Ningyu's actions and kept shaking his head and sighing. As a late-stage Earth Immortal warrior, he could naturally see that Ningyu devouring the lightning tribulation liquid was no longer able to increase his cultivation and strength. Under such circumstances, Ningyu was still devouring the lightning tribulation liquid on his own. In his eyes, it was a complete waste of God's gift. Drip, drip. Time was ticking away. In the blink of an eye, half an hour had passed. Ningyu suddenly opened his eyes and stared at the lightning tribulation liquid in the thunderbolt pool for 3 seconds. Then, he took out a jade bottle and stored the excess lightning tribulation liquid in it. Then, Ningyu jumped out of the thunderbolt pool. Buzz. As soon as Ningyu left the thunderbolt pool shook and suddenly drilled into the void, disappearing. Come out. Ningyu played with the jade bottle in his hand and stared at the void in the distance. I know you're hiding inside, he said indifferently. Cough. Although Xiao Xian knew that Ningyu could find him, he still felt a little awkward when the words came out of Ningyu's mouth. After all, he was a late-stage Earth immortal and Ningyu was only a perfected mortal immortal. After coughing twice, Xiao Xian's figure flashed and he flew out of the void. You know Luo Shireha? Ningyu asked the moment he saw Xiao Xian without hiding anything. Yes. Xiao Xian did not deny it and nodded. Luo Shireha is from the Luo clan and I am from the Xiao clan. My name is Xiao Xian. Ningyu was speechless. Luo Shireha was from the Luo clan and Xiao Xian was from the Xiao clan. Isn't this nonsense? If he wasn't from the Xiao clan or the Luo clan, could he be from the Li clan? However, Ningyu didn't dwell on this matter. Instead, he continued, I killed Luo Shireha. What are you still doing here? Are you trying to snatch the lightning tribulation liquid from me? How is that possible? Xiao Xian hurriedly waved his hand and explained, the reason why I stayed is to tell you that you're in big trouble. Oh, I'm all ears. Ningyu raised his eyebrows. Taking a deep breath, Xiao Xian explained, Luo Shireha and I are both from a heaven immortal clan. There used to be a heaven immortal in our clan. A clan like ours is a mainstay in the various territories, second only to powerful forces with heaven immortals. Seeing that Ningyu's expression was indifferent and he did not refute, Xiao Xian sorted out his thoughts and continued, You killed Luo Shireha and offended the Luo clan. I think you should let the force behind you step in. Lobbyist. Before Xiao Xian could finish speaking, Ningyu frowned slightly and said indifferently, On account that you did not attack earlier, I can let you leave and not bicker with you. You may have misunderstood me. Luo Shireha is the precious son of the Luo clan's current clan leader. Now that he was killed, the Luo clan will definitely send powerful cultivators to the celestial spirit region to seek revenge. Although you are strong, it should be difficult for you to resist those veteran half-step heaven immortals, right? Xiao Xian said hurriedly. To be honest, Xiao Xian was not a fool. Whether he could get the lightning tribulation liquid or not depended entirely on Ningyu's attitude. Convince Ningyu. Chapter 1944. Although Ningyu was only at the perfected worldly immortal stage, his overall strength could already compete with a half-step heaven immortal. Plus, Ningyu still had the heavenly tribulation liquid, so Xiao Xian thought it was a wise decision to remind him. However, Ningyu only smiled at Xiao Xian's reminder. It has nothing to do with you whether I'm a match for a veteran half-step heaven immortal or not. If there's nothing else, I think you can leave now. Ningyu asked him to leave. He had always been very indifferent to Xiao Xian and did not want to have too much contact with him. After all, Xiao Xian could still maintain his composure in the face of the heavenly tribulation liquid. This courage alone was enough to make Ningyu look at him in a different light. However, Ningyu still did not want to get entangled with Xiao Xian. Who knew if Xiao Xian still had a trump card? Did he have any helpers? Ningyu's thoughts were very clear. He did not want to get involved with Xiao Xian. You've misunderstood. I'm not an enemy. We can even be friends. Xiao Xian hurriedly said when he heard Ningyu ask him to leave. Be friends with me? Ningyu wanted to leave with Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an, but his expression suddenly changed. He pointed at the void in the distance and said, As long as you can help me kill them all, I'll admit that you're my friend and I'll even give you a cup of heavenly tribulation liquid. Whoosh. Xiao Xian hurriedly looked into the distance after hearing Ningyu's words. Hiss. This glance caused Xiao Xian to suck in a breath of cold air. Whoosh! The space trembled and several figures appeared from the void. When Xiao Xian looked carefully, he saw a total of 10 warriors standing in the same place. These martial artists were divided into 2 camps. 4 on the left and 6 on the right. Among the 4 martial artists' camp, 2 were at the advanced Earth Immortal stage and 2 were at the intermediate Earth Immortal stage. Of course, this was not the reason why Xiao Xian gasped. The reason why Xiao Xian gasped was that there were 5 late-stage Earth-level deities and 1 peak-stage Earth-level deities. Moreover, Xiao Xian could feel that this peak-stage Earth-level deity-level warrior was very talented and comparable to him. Are you the one undergoing the tribulation? After these warriors appeared, they did not pay attention to Ningyu. Instead, they focused all their attention on Xiao Xian. The warrior at the peak of the earthly immortal realm looked at Xiao Xian and said with interest, "I didn't expect you to be so talented. You just passed the earthly immortal tribulation and your cultivation has advanced to the late stage of the earthly immortal realm. How about this? Kneel down and kowtow to me a few times and hand over the tribulation liquid. I'll spare your life and let you be my dog. The earthly immortal tribulation? To be your lackey?" Xiao Xian was slightly stunned when he heard the words of the peak earthly immortal realm cultivator, and then his face turned completely gloomy. He, the dignified genius of the Xiao clan, was actually ridiculed by others like this. He really could not tolerate it. Humph. It's not like I haven't killed a peak-stage Earth-level warrior before. Let me go on a killing spree today. Xiao Xian snorted coldly. Then, he stomped on the ground and rushed out. Good timing. Looking at Xiao Xian who was rushing towards him, the warrior at the peak of the earthly immortal realm smirked and said disdainfully, "I wanted you to be my dog, but since you want to die, I can only fulfill your wish." As soon as he finished speaking, the warrior at the peak of the earthly immortal realm grabbed the air with his right hand and a terrifying essence chi appeared. This essence chi kept jumping in the hand of the warrior at the peak of the earthly immortal realm. In the end, it turned into the shape of a flying sword and stabbed towards Xiao Xian. Small tricks. Xiao Xian was not frightened by the essence chi flying sword. Instead, he looked very calm and confident. I guess the plane barrier has completely loosened. I just don't know if there will be Earth-level overlords descending. Ningyu was not particularly concerned about Xiao Xian's battle. Because he knew that with Xiao Xian's strength, even if he could not defeat a peak-stage Earth-level warrior, he would not be defeated so quickly. After all, he felt a mysterious and unpredictable aura from Xiao Xian. That aura even made his heart palpitate a little. The focus of Ningyu's attention was the 10 Earth-level overlords that appeared in front of him this time. In the past, even sage-level warriors rarely appeared in the celestial spirit state. However, with the constant loosening of the plane barrier, the current celestial spirit state had become a situation where human immortals and Earth-level immortals were as numerous as dogs. After successfully passing the great trial of human immortal and going through the baptism of the heavenly tribulation, Ningyu's strength was now very strong. It could be said that Ningyu could easily kill a late-stage Earth-level warrior. Even if he were to face a peak-stage Earth-level warrior, Ningyu could deal with him easily. Even if he were to face a perfected Earth-level warrior or a half-step heaven immortal, Ningyu could fight against them and even kill them. However, there was a saying that the stronger one was, the more things he had to worry about. Ningyu knew that with his current combat power, once he faced a real heaven immortal, there would only be a dead end. Even if he were to face a genius from a heaven immortal family with a heavenly treasure, he might not be able to compete with him. Heavenly treasure was the Dharma treasure of a heaven immortal. It was a Dharma treasure that followed the heaven immortal in battle. Strictly speaking, heavenly treasure was an existence that surpassed the sage level in terms of Dharma treasures. Looks like I need to break through to the Earth-level warrior as soon as possible. Ningyu looked at the 2 people fighting in the distance and murmured with a solemn expression. Boom. Just as Ningyu's thoughts calmed down, the situation in the distance gradually changed. A peak-stage Earth-level warrior was obviously no match for Xiao Xian in a one-on-one battle. However, the other 9 Earth-level warriors did not follow the rules. They all launched thunderous attacks at Xiao Xian when the peak-stage Earth-level warrior was at a disadvantage. Is there really no trump card? Ningyu frowned slightly. To be honest, he did not believe that Xiao Xian did not have a trump card. In his opinion, Xiao Xian just did not want to expose his strength too much. D***MN. Who did I offend? Xiao Xian was about to go crazy. It was not easy for him to get a cup of thunder tribulation fluid. Who the hell are you? Xiao Xian said fiercely while resisting the attacks of the 10 experts. When I return to the high-level plane, I will definitely uproot your sect. Oh, you want to uproot our sect? The peak stage Earth-level warrior smiled and said disdainfully, to tell you the truth, my name is Liu Chuancheng and I come from the high-level plane, Sacred Divine Palace. Swoosh. As soon as the peak stage Earth-level warrior said that, Ningyu's expression changed slightly. Sacred Divine Palace. If he remembered correctly, Sacred Divine Palace was the sect of Emperor Palace in the high-level plane. Back then, Liu Chuancheng was from Sacred Divine Palace and he seemed to be the young master of Sacred Divine Palace. Thinking of this, Ningyu stomped on the ground and suddenly rushed out. Chapter 1945. Sacred Divine Palace. Xiao Xian's face darkened when he heard Liu Chuancheng's words. In a high-level plane, the Sacred Divine Palace was a powerful force that ruled over several territories. Although the territory he was in was not under the control of the Sacred Divine Palace, he was well aware of how terrifying the Sacred Divine Palace was. For example, the territories of the Five-Fingered Immortal and the God Transformation sect were many times weaker than the Sacred Divine Palace. Most importantly, the Sacred Divine Palace would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. It was rumored that an outer sect disciple of the Sacred Divine Palace had gone to a small territory to train and died for some unknown reason. Death and injury were unavoidable when one went out to train. However, the Sacred Divine Palace had sent powerful cultivators to kill all the cultivators above the mortal immortal level and capture all the cultivators below the mortal immortal level to be slaves. That was why Xiao Xian had such an expression when he found out that Liu Chuancheng was from the Sacred Divine Palace. After all, the Xiao clan that he came from was far from the behemoth that was the Holy Divine Palace. Seeing Xiao Xian's expression, the corners of Liu Chuancheng's lips curled up slightly. If you want to live, come and kowtow to me obediently. Then, let go of your mind and let me control you. Otherwise, I will let you know what cruelty is. Xiao Xian stood rooted to the ground, his face dark. Ask him to submit to Liu Chuancheng? Obviously, that was impossible. However, if he did not submit to Liu Chuancheng, he would definitely attack the Xiao family when he returned to the high-level plane. He might even uproot the Xiao family. Xiao Xian could not afford to pay such a price. However, at this moment, an indifferent voice rang out in the area. You're right. Come here and kowtow to me. If I'm in a good mood, I can consider letting you live. Swoosh. Liu Chuancheng's face darkened when he heard those words. He clenched his fists and was on the verge of exploding. He had always spoken to others in such a tone when he was in the high-level plane because he was from the Sacred Divine Palace. However, someone dared to speak to him in such a tone in the celestial spirit realm? Truly, if this could be tolerated, what could not? Who do you think you are? How dare you talk to me like that? Liu Chuancheng waved his sleeves and coldly said to Zuoyu, go and capture him. Skin him alive, pull out his tendons, and dismember him into 1,000 pieces. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As soon as Liu Chuancheng's voice resounded, the 3 late earthly immortal experts beside him flashed out in unison and charged towards Ningyu. You overestimate yourself. Ningyu didn't take the 3 late earthly immortal stage experts seriously. The corners of his mouth curled up, and the red demon sword in his hand casually slashed out 3 beams of sword radiance. Ha 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 ha. When Liu Chuancheng saw the 3 sword lights that Ningyu sent out, he could not help but laugh. I was wondering how strong you were. So, you are just a silver spear and a wax elephant head. In fact, it was no wonder that Liu Chuancheng had such a reaction. Even Xiao Xian, who knew Ningyu's strength, had a similar reaction. No matter how one looked at it, the power of the 3 sword lights that Ningyu sent out was only at the mid-earthly immortal stage. And the 3 martial artists who rushed towards Ningyu were all at the late earthly immortal stage. You used the sword light that was equivalent to the power of a mid-earthly immortal stage expert to deal with a late-earthly immortal stage expert. Isn't this a joke? Idiot. Ningyu remained unmoved. After sending out 3 sword lights, he crossed his arms in front of his chest and watched with interest at the late-earth immortal expert who was about to come into contact with the sword lights. Bang! What happened next made Liu Chuancheng's face darken to the extreme. A crisp sound was heard, and then a late-earthly immortal stage expert fell to the ground with his eyes wide open. Then, the other 2 late-earth immortal experts also fell to the ground with a horrified look on their faces. What's going on? Xiao Xian clearly didn't know what was going on with the sudden change. Why did 3 late-earthly immortal stage experts fall to the ground and seem to be dead? I want you to die. Before Xiao Xian could understand the situation, Liu Chuancheng clenched his fists and suddenly rushed out with a roar. There are many people who want me dead. Who do you think you are? Ningyu shrugged and looked at the earthly immortal stage experts behind Liu Chuancheng. Come at me together. It will save me a lot of time. Arrogant. You're courting death. Ningyu's words only angered the 2 earthly immortal stage experts on Liu Chuancheng's side. As for the other 4 martial artists, they stood still and did not make a move. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. 3 figures, with Liu Chuancheng in front and the other 2 late earthly immortal stage experts behind, rushed towards Ningyu at an extremely shocking speed. Red Devil. Ningyu shouted as he gripped the red demon sword and faced the 3 cultivators charging at him. Even a lion would use all its strength to fight a rabbit, let alone against 3 earthly immortal stage experts. Only when the Red Devil and the Red Devil sword fused together could the Red Devil sword exert its strongest power. In order to prevent any accidents, Ningyu used all his strength and tried to defeat the enemy with one move. Slash. As he shouted, Ningyu waved the Red Devil sword in his hand. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 3 waist-thick sword radiants suddenly separated from the Red Devil sword and slashed towards Liu Chuancheng and the others. Great art of destruction. Seeing that the sword radiance from Ningyu was about to reach him, Liu Chuancheng did not dare to be negligent and hurriedly displayed his trump card. Great art of destruction. The Sacred Divine Palace was a powerful sect that ruled over several territories. They possessed all kinds of high-level spells. The Great Art of Destruction was a sacred-level martial skill. Strictly speaking, the level of the Great Art of Destruction was much higher than the Emperor Divine Art and Supreme 9 Purities sword skill that Ningyu had mastered. Whoosh, whoosh. Just as Ningyu was pondering, the 3 sword radiants that he had slashed out had already collided with Liu Chuancheng and the others. Since Liu Chuancheng's cultivation had reached the peak of the earthly immortal stage, he was strong enough to withstand the sword radiance that Ningyu slashed out. Liu Chuancheng was able to withstand the sword radiance, but the other 2 advanced earthly immortal stage experts were not so lucky. After spitting out 2 mouthfuls of blood, the 2 advanced earthly immortal stage experts instantly fell to the ground and their auras became extremely weak. After struggling for a few seconds, the eyes of the 2 advanced earthly immortal stage experts rolled back and they died on the spot. Crack. Seeing that 5 of his companions were killed in an instant, Liu Chuancheng was so angry that his teeth were chattering. Dong Chen, you old fart, if you don't act now, the people of your Primeval Demon sect will also be killed by him. Although Liu Chuancheng was angry, he did not lose his mind. He knew that with his strength, it was basically impossible for him to kill Ningyu. Chapter 1946. The Primordial Demon Sect. Ningyu frowned. The Corpse Sect, the Emperor Divine Palace, and the Blood Demon Palace indeed had an irreconcilable feud with him. The reason why he was reborn was that he had to swallow the broken reincarnation elixir after being besieged by the 9 Earth Supremes of the Heavenly Demon region. Now that the Blood Demon Palace was here, he naturally had to meet the Primordial Demon Sect. Whoosh! Just as Ningyu was deep in thought, the void trembled, and an old man appeared out of thin air. Dong Chen. The old man was none other than Dong Chen, the expert from the Primordial Demon Sect that Liu Chuancheng had mentioned. Peak Earth-level deity? Ningyu frowned as he sensed the aura exuding from Dong Chen. On the surface, Dongchen's aura was that of a peak Earth-level deity, but Ningyu felt that things weren't that simple. Because he didn't notice Dongchen's existence. In other words, Dongchen was most likely a perfected Earth-level deity, which was half a step into the sky deity level. Another one. Xiaoxian's reaction was many times bigger than Ningyu's. His pupils constricted as he stared at Dongchen. His heart sank to the bottom of the valley. Whether it was Dongchen or Liu Chuancheng, they were both much stronger than him. He was no match for Dongchen and Liu Chuancheng in a one-on-one fight, let alone 2 against 1. Liu Chuancheng, you can't even defeat a perfected human-level deity. It seems that the sacred divine palace is just SOSO. Dongchen's gaze lingered on Ningyu for a few seconds, then shifted to Liu Chuancheng. Humph. Who doesn't know how to brag? If you can, do it yourself. As long as you can take down Ningyu, I'll admit that the primordial demon sect is powerful. Liu Chuancheng snorted. In the high-level planes, the primordial demon sect and the sacred divine palace were equal in status. They were both behemoths that controlled several territories. Now that Dongchen had openly mocked the sacred divine palace, Liu Chuancheng naturally wanted to make him taste Ningyu's power. After the exchange just now, Liu Chuancheng believed that he had already judged Ningyu's strength. He was slightly stronger than him. Dongchen's strength was on par with his. If Dongchen were to deal with Ningyu, the outcome would not be much different from his. Alright, I'll show you what true strength is. Dongchen obviously knew that Liu Chuancheng was trying to goad him into action, but he didn't care. As soon as he finished speaking, he dashed out and dashed toward Ningyu at high speed. As he advanced, Dongchen's entire body became illusory, and black gas emerged from his body. Primordial demonic chi. As the cold words came out of his mouth, a waist-thick black gas rushed toward Ningyu like a wild horse that had broken free of its reins. There should be no one around. Ningyu floated in the air and retracted his perception. In Ningyu's mind, Dongchen and Liu Chuancheng were nothing more than clowns. As long as he wanted to, he could kill them with a flip of his hand. After all, after swallowing a large amount of heavenly tribulation liquid, his strength had made a qualitative leap. With his current strength, unless a half-step heaven immortal expert came personally, he could easily kill anyone. The reason why Ningyu did not immediately take care of Dongchen and Liu Chuancheng was because he wanted to make sure that there was no one hiding in the surroundings, lest someone came to play the game of the mantis stalking the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. What primordial demonic chi? It's all dregs in front of me. Ningyu waved the red demon sword in his hand, and in a split second, several sword rays slashed out. After determining that there were no hidden experts in the surroundings, Ningyu no longer held back. The yuan chi in his sea of consciousness tumbled and poured into the red demon sword. Not long after the first wave of sword rays slashed out, Ningyu slashed out several more sword rays. Whoosh! The overwhelming sword rays rushed toward Dongchen and Liu Chuancheng. Puff, 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 puff. Almost in an instant, the 4 Earth immortal experts from the primordial demon sect were beheaded by the sword rays, and died on the spot. The power of each sword ray that Ningyu slashed out was equivalent to a full-force attack from a half-step heaven immortal expert. Among the 4 Earth immortal experts from the primordial demon sect, the highest cultivation was only at the late-stage Earth immortal. How could they withstand the attack of the sword rays? I'll kill you. Seeing the 4 Earth immortal experts from the primordial demon sect being killed, Dongchen roared angrily. Although the primordial demon sect was extremely powerful, every Earth immortal expert was the mainstay of the sect. Losing even one of them was a huge matter. How could Dongchen not be angry that Ningyu killed 4 Earth immortal experts with a single move? While being angry, Dongchen hurriedly waved his hands and displayed all the primordial demonic chi that he carried with him. Great art of destruction. Not only did Dongchen display his trump card, even Liu Chuancheng used the great art of destruction. At the moment of life and death, who could hold back? This battle had already evolved to the point where it was either you die or I die. The thought of capturing Ningyu alive in Dongchen and Liu Chuancheng's hearts had long since vanished into thin air. At this moment, there was only one thought in their minds, and that was to kill Ningyu and blast Ningyu into pieces. As for Ningyu himself, after slashing out a few sword rays, he leaped and came to Xiao Xian's side. "Tell me about the primordial demon sect and the sacred divine palace," Ningyu asked. Since he would have to go to a higher plane sooner or later, he might as well understand the power of the primordial demon sect and the sacred divine palace first. Otherwise, he would be like a headless fly that didn't know how to deal with them. Gulp. Xiao Xian looked at Dong Chen and Liu Chuancheng, who were struggling to resist the sword rays in the distance, then looked at Ningyu and couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. He knew that Ningyu was strong, but he didn't expect him to be this strong. Dong Chen and Liu Chuancheng were both at the peak of the Earth Immortal level. Even if their combined strength was not as good as a half-step Heaven Immortal, it was not much weaker. But such two powerful warriors were helpless in the face of Ningyu's sword rays. And Xiao Xian knew that Dong Chen and Liu Chuancheng would be defeated sooner or later. Is this the effect of the Thunder Tribulation Fluid? The more he thought about it, the more Xiao Xian yearned for the Thunder Tribulation Fluid. Although the Thunder Tribulation Fluid had appeared when he was undergoing the Great Tribulation of Human Immortal, the Thunder Tribulation Fluid that appeared at that time could not be compared to Ningyu's Thunder Tribulation Fluid, be it in quantity or quality. He had read in the ancient books of his family that in ancient times, when there was a heaven-defying ghost who was undergoing the Great Tribulation of Human Immortal, a large amount of Thunder Tribulation Fluid appeared. After the baptism of the Thunder Tribulation Fluid, the heaven-defying ghost directly fought against a Heaven Immortal with the body of a Human Immortal. From this point of view, it was not surprising that Ningyu could easily defeat a peak Earth Immortal warrior with the cultivation of a perfected Human Immortal. The primordial demon sect and the sacred divine palace are similar in strength. They are both powerful sects that rule several territories. Although he yearned for the Thunder Tribulation Fluid, Xiao Xian did not forget Ningyu's question. Chapter 1947. This time, Ningyu was finally moved. Above Human Immortals were Earth Immortals, above Earth Immortals were Sky Immortals, and above Sky Immortals were Arcane Immortals. A celestial immortal who ruled over a territory could be the overlord of a small or even mid-sized territory. But Arcane Immortals were different. Once they reached the Arcane Immortal level, they could create a cultivation sacred ground. Furthermore, every cultivation holy land was built in a high-level territory. They commanded the entire territory, and no one dared to disobey them. Seeing that Ningyu was in a daze, Xiao Xian said cautiously, "In my opinion, killing Dong Chen and Liu Chuancheng is a very unwise choice." "Oh." Ningyu raised his eyebrows and stared at Xiao Xian. "You mean you want me to let Dong Chen and Liu Chuancheng go?" Xiao Xian hurriedly shook his head. "You can't let them go. I mean, capture them alive." "Haha, there's no need to capture them alive. I'll kill those who disobey me." Ningyu faintly smiled. Soon after, he brandished the red demon sword once again, and slashed out a couple of sword rays in the air. Whoosh! Several sword auras separated from the red demon sword and split into two, attacking Dong Chen and Liu Chuancheng respectively. "Damn it! You'll die a horrible death." Liu Chuancheng and Dong Chen were already unable to resist the sword auras. Now that Ningyu had sent out several more sword auras, they cursed angrily. However, Ningyu obviously didn't take Liu Chuancheng and Dong Chen's curses to heart. He had already made up his mind to kill Liu Chuancheng and Dong Chen. After thinking for a while, Ningyu began to contact the Dark Emperor and Ninglu in the storage ring. Whoosh! Whoosh! In an instant, the Dark Emperor and Ninglu flew out of the storage ring. "Ningyu, I'm about to break through to the Human Immortal realm. Why did you call me?" Ninglu complained to Ningyu as soon as he came out. His face was filled with dissatisfaction. The effect of the five-finger divine pill was very obvious. After devouring the sacred pill of 5 fingers, Ninglu's body was brimming with energy. It felt as though he was on the verge of assailing the Human Immortal stage. Apart from Ninglu, even the Dark Emperor had advanced to the Sage realm. His cultivation had skyrocketed to the Sage Great Perfection. As for the Human Devil, it was even more exaggerated. With the help of the 5-finger divine elixir, The human demon's combat strength had recovered to the peak of Earth immortal realm even though he did not completely get rid of the hidden illness in his body. Don't think about assailing the human immortal stage just yet. I have prepared a big gift for you. Ningyu pointed at Dong Chen and Liu Chuancheng who were struggling in the distance and said, both of them are peak earthly immortals. Before you break through to human immortal, devour them first. Devouring a peak earth immortal warrior? Following Ningyu's gaze, Ninglu saw Dong Chen and Liu Chuancheng. This glance caused Ninglu to freeze on the spot. Because Ningyu had sealed the storage ring, Ninglu and the others were not very clear about what was happening in the outside world. Now that they saw Ningyu had trapped two peak earth immortal warriors, how could they not be shocked? The human demon's reaction was somewhat different from Ninglu's. His attention was on the sword ray. Although he was injured, the human demon was still a heaven immortal expert at his peak. He could feel an extremely terrifying aura from the sword ray. A peak earth immortal warrior would not be able to display such an aura. Only a half-step heaven immortal warrior could display such an aura. Ningyu, did you display all these sword rays? The human demon's gaze fell on Ningyu and asked doubtfully. It was no wonder that the human demon was doubtful. After all, Ningyu was only a peak human immortal, but the power of the sword ray was equivalent to a half-step heaven immortal warrior's full force attack. A peak human immortal warrior could display such a sword ray? If someone said this to the human demon would probably look at that person as if he was looking at a retard. But now that the human demon saw Ningyu's confident look, he had a rough guess in his heart. A guess was just a guess. To be honest, the human demon still did not quite believe it. That's right. Ningyu nodded, then the red demon's sword in his hand swept out again. Swoosh. A waist-thick sword ray flew out and slashed at Dong Chen and Liu Chuancheng. Seeing this sword ray fly out, the human demon finally believed the guess in his heart. The power of this sword ray was terrifying to the extreme. Even the human demon did not dare say that he could withstand it. Fart. Fart. This sword ray was the last straw that broke the camel's back. Dong Chen and Liu Chuancheng were struggling to hold on with their last bit of willpower. Now that Ningyu slashed out the last sword ray, their willpower was directly shattered. After their willpower was shattered, Dong Chen and Liu Chuancheng were instantly drowned in countless sword rays. Being surrounded by so many sword rays, it was not easy for Dong Chen and Liu Chuancheng to hold on until now. However, not to mention that they were only peak earth immortals, even if they were peak earth immortals, they might not be able to break through the encirclement in the face of so many sword rays that were equivalent to the full power of a half-step heaven immortal. Dong Chen and Liu Chuancheng spat out blood and fell to the ground on the spot, their aura dropping to the freezing point. Swoosh. Swoosh. Seeing that Dong Chen and Liu Chuancheng were defeated, Ninglu and the Dark Emperor rushed out. Among them, Ninglu rushed towards Dong Chen and the Dark Emperor rushed towards Liu Chuancheng. Ningyu, this is... Since Dong Chen and Liu Chuancheng had been defeated, the human demon did not care. At this time, the human demon's attention was on Xiao Xian. Although Xiao Xian's cultivation was at the late stage Earth Immortal, for some reason, the human demon felt that Xiao Xian was different from other late stage Earth Immortals. Hello, my name is Xiao Xian, I'm from the Xiao family. Xiao Xian looked at the human demon and stretched out his hand. I'm good friends with Ningyu. Good friends? The human demon shook Xiao Xian's hand with a puzzled look. Ningyu was a native of the celestial spirit state. The human demon did not remember that Ningyu had a late-stage Earth immortal friend. We just met by chance. Ningyu shrugged, obviously not wanting to have too much contact with Xiao Xian. Ningyu had said before that as long as Xiao Xian could get rid of Liu Chuancheng, he would recognize Xiao Xian as a friend. Obviously, Xiao Xian had not done it. Ningyu did not want to kill people like Xiao Xian, so it was best to draw a line between them. Of course, drawing a line was one thing, but Ningyu would not let Xiao Xian go. After all, only Xiao Xian, Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an knew that he had the heavenly tribulation liquid. Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an would naturally not spread the news, but Ningyu was still worried about Xiao Xian. After thinking for a while, Ningyu said, we shouldn't stay here for long. Let's go to the 1000 Demon Ridge as soon as possible. After saying this, Ningyu did not wait for Xiao Xian to react. He grabbed Xiao Xian's shoulder and flew in the direction of the 1000 Demon Ridge. Hey, wait for us. Seeing Ningyu leave, Ninglu and the Dark Emperor hurriedly shouted. Although their devouring speed was fast, Dong Chen and Liu Chuancheng were late-stage Earth Immortals. It would be difficult for them to devour them in a short time. Chapter 1948. The City of Demons. The distance between the City of Demons and the 10,000 Demons Ridge was not too far. From the City of Demons to the 10,000 Demons Ridge, it was only about an hour's journey. Originally, the City of Demons was only a small city with a radius of less than 10 miles. However, as the news of the 10,000 Demons Ridge's origin power spread, more and more people gathered in the City of Demons. In the end, the City of Demons even evolved into a huge city with a radius of hundreds of miles in just a month. The most iconic building in the City of Demons was the Demons Restaurant located in the center of the city. The Demons Restaurant had a total of 5 floors, and each floor had a strict cultivation requirement. The first 4 floors required cultivators to be at the Supremacy Stage, the Sage Stage, the Human Celestial Stage, and the Earth Celestial Stage. As for the 5th floor, the highest level, it was only open to geniuses on the longevity list or experts who had reached the half-step Heaven Celestial Stage. The reason why the Demons Restaurant was called the iconic building of the City of Demons was not only because of the strict cultivation requirement of the cultivators who entered, but also because the Demons Restaurant had the most timely information source in the entire City of Demons. As long as one could provide something that interested the Demons Restaurant, one could ask a question for free. Of course, some confidential information could only be obtained with very precious items. Swish. At this moment, a cultivator in black suddenly appeared in front of the Demons Restaurant. On the surface, the cultivator's cultivation was not too high, only at the Sage Stage. However, upon closer inspection, one would find that the cultivator in black was not as simple as he seemed. The cultivator in black directly entered the Demons Restaurant and found the person in charge of the first floor. Without beating around the bush, the cultivator in black took out a crystal ball and handed it to the person in charge of the first floor of the Demons Restaurant. He said, "I want to know where this person is." The person in charge of the first floor of the Demons Restaurant was called Zhong Heng. He took the crystal ball from the cultivator in black and looked at it. Then, he said, "What price are you willing to pay?" The cultivator in black did not speak. Instead, he took out a storage bag and threw it out. Zhong Heng used his perception to explore the storage bag for a while and nodded with satisfaction. He said, "The primordial souls of 3 early-stage human celestials. The person you are looking for is in the City of Demons." The black-clad cultivator frowned slightly. After some thought, he tossed out another storage bag. "The primordial spirits of 6 early human immortals. The person you're looking for is in the inner city of the City of Devils." Heng glanced at the storage bag and said calmly, "I want to know her exact location." The black-clothed martial artist flicked his sleeves and a crystal ball flew towards Heng. "Pa." Zhong Heng raised his right hand and grabbed the crystal ball firmly. The nascent spirit of an early Earth immortal expert. Zhong Heng's lips curled up slightly when he sensed the soul sealed in the crystal ball. He said, "The person you're looking for is being controlled by the Heaven's Secret Sect. He's in the Heaven's Secrets Hall." Whoosh. Hearing Zhong Heng's words, the black-clothed martial artist's expression instantly turned cold. Before coming here, he had already investigated it. In the City of Demons, there were a few forces that couldn't be provoked. For example, the Sacred Divine Palace, the Prime Val Demon Sect, the Tianji Sect. These forces were dominating even in the high-level realms. Rumor had it that there were half-step heaven immortals in these forces, and there were even peerless elites ranked in the top 50 of the longevity roll. Those geniuses all had terrifying trump cards, and their combat power was very strong. The black-clothed martial artist thought for a moment and said, "I heard that the Demons Restaurant provides a service to find people." Heng didn't answer the black-clothed martial artist. Instead, he held up 5 fingers. Primordial souls of 5 early-stage Earth immortals? The black-clothed martial artist asked tentatively. Hung shook his head. 5 mid-stage Earth immortals? The black-clothed martial artist frowned. Hung shook his head again. 5 late-stage Earth immortals? The black-clothed martial artist was surprised. Hung smiled and said, 5 primordial souls of half-step heaven immortals. Fart. The black-clothed martial artist almost spat out a mouthful of blood. 5 primordial souls of half-step heaven immortals? Why didn't he just rob someone? The person you're looking for is called Zhao Rui. She has a 1 in a million spirit body. Hung glanced at the black-clothed martial artist and said, I can tell you with certainty that ever since Zhao Rui came to the City of Demons, many major forces have been fighting over her. Although Zhao Rui has been taken away by the Heaven Secret Sect, the Heaven Secret Sect will still hold a banquet at the Demons Restaurant in 3 days to discuss how to deal with Zhao Rui. 5 primordial souls of half-step heaven immortals. The Demons Restaurant will replace her with someone else and bring Zhao Rui out in 1 day. What the black-clothed martial artist didn't notice was that Hung had a sinister smile on his face when he said that. Snatch Zhao Rui? What a joke. One must know that even the Devil's Tavern wanted Zhao Rui. Replacing her with someone else from the Heaven Secret Sect was more difficult than reaching the sky. Besides, even if they succeeded, they would never hand Zhao Rui over to the black-clothed martial artist. Thank you. 5 primordial souls of half-step heaven immortals had far exceeded the black-clothed martial artist's bottom line. He clenched his fist at Hung, then his figure flashed, tearing the void and leaving. Buzz. Not long after the black-clothed martial artist left, a crack appeared in the space next to Hung and an old man appeared. Seeing the old man, Hung quickly bowed and greeted, Elder Jiang. Zhao Rui's elder brother is coming to the City of Demons. Bring a few people to fetch him. Elder Jiang waved his hand and said, as long as Zhao Rui's elder brother is in our hands, we will have the upper hand in the negotiation 3 days later. Understood. Hung's body trembled and he immediately entered the void. After Hung left, Elder Jiang murmured, 1 in 10,000 absolute spirit body. We must snatch it no matter what. Whoosh. Ning Yu and the others didn't know what happened in the Demons Restaurant. At this moment, Ning Yu and the others stopped when they were still a distance away from the City of Demons. The reason why they chose to stop was not because Ning Yu and the others couldn't fly anymore, nor was it because they were in big trouble. It was because the Dark Emperor, Ning Lu, and Hong Mo had tribulation clouds above their heads. Human immortal tribulation. The 3 human immortal tribulations were coming at the same time. I told you guys to suppress it. Ning Yu looked at the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu helplessly. We suppressed it. Ning Lu and the Dark Emperor expressed their innocence. Suppress my ass. Ning Yu said impatiently, Dong Chen and Liu Chuancheng are both late Earth immortals. How can you suppress it after devouring them? Forget it, forget it. You guys attracted the tribulation clouds yourself, so you should go and cross them yourself. Chapter 1949. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Ning Lu, the Dark Emperor, and the others did not hesitate at all. As soon as Ning Yu finished his words, their figures flickered and flew in 3 different directions. The great trial of the human immortal realm was a very important thunder tribulation. Ning Lu and the others did not want 3 human immortal realm tribulations to be mixed together. One could imagine how powerful it would be if the 3 human immortal realm tribulations were combined. Therefore, splitting up was a necessary choice. 1 for each of us. Make sure that they are not disturbed. Ning Yu shouted in a low voice and then rushed towards Ning Lu. Whoosh, whoosh. Seeing that Ning Yu had left, the human demon and Xiao Xian did not stay idle. One of them rushed towards the Dark Emperor and the other towards the Hong Mo Rumble. Ning Lu and the others had just chosen a place when the tribulation clouds above their heads descended. As expected of the purple-gold sky-devouring hound. The great trial of the human immortal realm is indeed terrifying. Feeling the tribulation clouds that were as thick as the Dark Emperor's head, the human demon's face turned solemn. Even in high-level planes, Only the divine sons and goddesses of peerless sects could reach this level of thunder tribulation. I wonder how terrifying Ningyu's great trial of the human immortal realm is. Thinking of this, the human demon could not help but look at Ningyu, who was far away. The human demon did not forget his reaction when Ningyu gave him the thunder tribulation fluid. The thunder tribulation fluid would only appear in a peerless great trial. The amount and value of the thunder tribulation fluid depended on the strength of the thunder tribulation. According to the human demon's observation, although there would be thunder tribulation fluid in the Dark Emperor's great trial of the human immortal realm, there would not be too much. Since Ningyu had extra thunder tribulation fluid for him, it meant that Ningyu's great trial of the human immortal realm would produce a lot of thunder tribulation fluid. Stop. At this moment, the void not far away from the human demon suddenly split open and a few martial artists appeared. The leading martial artist was Heng, the person in charge of the first floor of the Fiend restaurant. There were a total of 4 martial artists beside Heng. Judging from their aura, these 4 martial artists were at the peak of Earth immortal realm. In order to capture Zhao Rui's brother, Zhong Heng sent out 4 peak Earth immortal experts at once. One had to admit that there was no problem with Zhong Heng's attitude. After all, if the Devil's Restaurant could think of capturing Zhao Rui's brother, the other forces, such as the Sacred Divine Palace and the Primeval Demon Sect, would definitely think of it as well. When the strong clashed, it was a competition of whose side had more experts. If it weren't for the fact that someone had to stay behind to guard the Fiend Herd restaurant, Zhong Heng would have sent a half-step heavenly immortal expert over. Someone is undergoing tribulation ahead. Could it be the earthly immortal tribulation? Zhong Heng looked into the distance and felt a slight tremor in the void. He asked curiously. It's impossible for the natives of the immortal spirit realm to have reached the peak of the human immortal stage at this time, and those from the higher planes wouldn't undergo their tribulations in a place as barren as the immortal spirit realm. Who is undergoing their tribulations? Zhong Heng frowned, puzzled. Zhong Heng thought for a moment, and then he instructed one of the perfection stage earthly immortal realm experts. Go see exactly who's overcoming the tribulation. If there's an expert on guard at the side, then come back and report it at the first possible moment. Remember not to enter into conflict with them. Zhong Heng wasn't stupid. Since someone dared to undergo the tribulation near the Devil's Restaurant, it meant that there was someone backing them up. It was highly possible that the person supporting them was a half-step heavenly immortal. Zhong Heng's mission was to bring Zhao Rui's brother back to the Fiend Herd restaurant, not to get into a conflict with others. Moreover, getting into a conflict with others would definitely result in casualties on his side. Once there were casualties on his side, he would definitely be at a disadvantage when competing with the other forces for Zhao Rui's brother. Swoosh. The peak Earth immortal stage martial artist that Zhong Heng instructed left quickly and returned quickly. When he returned, he had a strange expression and said to Zhong Heng, "There is indeed someone undergoing the tribulation over there, and there are people guarding them. However, it doesn't seem to be the earthly immortal tribulation. It's good that there are people guarding them. We still have to choose." No. Zhong Heng seemed to have thought of something halfway through his sentence and said hurriedly, "You said that their tribulation isn't the earthly immortal tribulation. Could it be the heavenly immortal tribulation?" Someone was undergoing the heavenly immortal tribulation in the celestial spirit region? Zhong Heng didn't believe it at all, because the heavenly immortal tribulation was an extremely terrifying lightning tribulation even in a high-level plane. When someone underwent the heavenly immortal tribulation, they would first clear the area and drive everyone within a radius of a few hundred miles away to prevent the lightning tribulation from being affected. After all, once someone entered the lightning tribulation by mistake, the power of the lightning tribulation would be doubled or even several times stronger. It's not the heavenly immortal tribulation either. The peak Earth immortal stage martial artist who went out to investigate said with a strange expression, "It's the human immortal tribulation." What? Are you sure you're not F*King kidding me? Zhong Heng's eyes widened, his face full of disbelief. Could the human immortal tribulation be so powerful? One should know that even the peerless geniuses in their sects didn't have such terrifying tribulation clouds when they underwent the human immortal tribulation. It's not one person undergoing the tribulation, but 3 people undergoing the tribulation at the same time. It's just that the distance is a little far, giving us the illusion that only one person is undergoing the tribulation. The peak Earth Immortal stage martial artist who went out to investigate said again. To be honest, the peak Earth Immortal stage martial artist who went out to investigate was also very surprised. 3 people undergoing the tribulation at the same time. Although the distance was very far, it was still very dangerous. If 2 of the lightning tribulations were to intertwine, the consequences would be very terrifying. 3 people undergoing the tribulation? Zhongheng's eyes widened. For the first time, he felt that his brain was not enough to process everything. Are they King humans or ghosts? Forget it. Let's not provoke them. Let's take a detour. Our priority is to find Zhao Rui's brother. Zhongheng thought for a while and decided to take a detour. A wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. After all, his mission was to find Zhao Rui's brother. Everything else could be put aside. With a flick of his wrist, Zhongheng took out a compass-shaped disc. He forced a drop of blood from his body and dripped it on the disc. Then, he took out a jade bottle and placed a strand of hair from the jade bottle on the golden pointer on the disc. Kai. As soon as the hair was placed on the golden needle, it instantly burst into flames. Then, the golden needle spun rapidly and stopped at a certain direction. Looking at the direction where the golden needle stopped, Zhongheng frowned. He couldn't help but have a bad premonition. Because the direction where the golden needle stopped was the direction where the few people in the distance were undergoing the tribulation. Could Zhao Rui's brother be with them? Zhongheng wondered. If that was really the case, then today's conflict was unavoidable even if they wanted to. Let's go and see who exactly they are. Taking a deep breath, Zhongheng stomped on the ground and dashed out. Chapter 1950. Someone's coming. Although the human demon's attention was focused on the Dark Emperor, the brief fluctuation caused by Heng and the others tearing through the void did not escape his senses. After devouring the 5-finger divine elixir and the thunder tribulation fluid, the human demon's strength became stronger and stronger. It could be said that before the Dark Emperor and the others went through their tribulation, the human demon's strength was comparable to a peak Earth Immortal. But now, the human demon's strength could compete with a half-step Heaven Immortal. I know, 4 peak Earth Immortals, 1 half-step Heaven Immortal. Heng's actions naturally could not be hidden from Ningyu. In fact, when Heng and the others first appeared, Ningyu had already noticed them. However, they did not provoke him, and Ninglu and the Dark Emperor were doing their best to go through their tribulation, so he did not care. Now that Heng and the others were flying towards him, their intention was clear. They were here to cause trouble. Ningyu had always been willing to sacrifice himself for his friends. But when it came to enemies, Ningyu's attitude had always been to kill them all. Senior human demon, stay with Xiao Xian. I'll go take care of this trouble. Ningyu did not think for too long. He hurriedly told the human demon and Xiao Xian, then rushed out in a flash. The Dark Emperor and Ninglu were going through their tribulation. The biggest taboo during the tribulation was to be disturbed. Therefore, regardless of whether Heng and the others were here to cause trouble, Ningyu had to stop them. Should I go over and help? Xiao Xian frowned slightly and hesitated when he saw Ningyu coming out. It was not that Xiao Xian did not trust Ningyu, but as Heng and the others approached, Xiao Xian could see their strength. 4 peak Earth Immortals and 1 half-step Heaven Immortal. This lineup was many times stronger than Dong Chen and Liu Chuancheng's from back then. Although Liu Chuancheng and Dong Chen came from the Sacred Divine Palace and the Primordial Demon Sect, their cultivation was still at the peak of the Earth Immortal level. Now that there was a half-step Heaven Immortal, how could Xiao Xian not worry? Besides, what Xiao Xian was worried about was not only Ningyu's safety, but also his heavenly tribulation fluid. Ningyu had personally promised him that as long as he stood guard for the Red Fiend, Ningyu would give him a cup of thunder tribulation liquid afterward. Seeing that the human immortal tribulation of Hong Mo and the others had reached a critical juncture, a few powerful warriors had come to cause trouble. Xiao Xian was so angry that he had already cursed Heng and the others 18 generations of ancestors. I don't need help. The human demon had a different opinion from Xiao Xian. He waved his hand casually and said, "You probably don't know how strong Ningyu is right now." Just how strong is Ningyu? Xiao Xian couldn't help but look to the other side. Xiao Xian saw that Ningyu had already arrived in front of Heng and blocked their way. Get lost. When Heng saw Ningyu suddenly appear in front of him, he waved his sleeves and a terrifying gust of wind came out. Previously, he wasn't sure where Zhao Rui's brother was, and Heng didn't want to give the other forces an opportunity, so he didn't make a move. But now that the disc showed that Zhao Rui's brother was nearby, how could he hold back? Facing Heng's terrifying gust of wind, Ningyu stood on the spot and flicked his finger gently. Whoosh! In the next moment, a cold light flew out of Ningyu's fingertip and collided with the terrifying gust of wind. When the two collided, what Heng expected did not happen. On the contrary, the terrifying gust of wind he had unleashed had dissipated along with the cold light in the air. The sudden change caused Zhong Heng to stop on the spot. He raised his eyebrows and looked at Ningyu. A perfected human immortal cultivator is actually able to block 10% of my strength. You're indeed capable. Tell me, which force are you from? If you're from a powerful force, I might be able to help you. If you're from a super force, I might consider sparing your life. Half-step heaven immortal realm cultivation. Not bad. I'm lacking a slave. You'll do. Ningyu didn't answer Heng. Instead, he stared at Heng and said, "Be my slave or die." What? Heng was a little confused. He was a half-step heaven immortal realm martial artist. And the kid in front of him was only a human immortal realm cultivator. Although the kid in front of him had blocked 10% of his power, he shouldn't be so arrogant, right? After being stunned, Heng became extremely angry. He said coldly, "If you offend me, I'll make you regret being born into this world." As soon as the word go fell, Zhong Heng raised his right leg and kicked at Ningyu. Invincible demon leg. As Zhong Heng growled, his right leg swayed quickly, and then evolved into several terrifying afterimages. Invincible demon leg. I'll make your leg break. With a thought, Ningyu took out the Red Fiend sword on the spot. Without the Red Fiend sword, its power would be greatly reduced. But it wouldn't be much of a problem to deal with Heng. Because Ningyu had already observed him. Although Heng was a half-step heaven immortal realm cultivator, the aura in his body was unstable. In other words, Heng wasn't a veteran half-step heaven immortal, but a newly advanced one. Moreover, Heng didn't advance to half-step heaven immortal realm by relying on his own understanding, but with the help of external forces. Even among half-step heaven immortals, there were differences in strength. Those who advanced to half-step heaven immortal realm by relying on their own understanding were many times stronger than those who advanced with the help of external forces. Some geniuses of peerless sects couldn't break through to half-step heaven immortal realm with the help of external forces. A half-step heavenly immortal who relied on external forces to advance to the half-step heavenly immortal realm would never be able to advance to the true heavenly immortal realm. Therefore, Heng, a half-step heaven immortal, was the weakest half-step heaven immortal. He was only slightly stronger than a peak earth immortal realm martial artist. You overestimate yourself. Seeing Ningyu's flying sword slashing at his right leg, Zhong Heng snorted coldly and said disdainfully, "Don't think you can compete with me with a saint-class flying sword. In the face of absolute power, even if you take out a peak saint-class flying sword, it will be useless." Is that so? Ningyu raised his eyebrows and slashed down with the Red Fiend sword. Whoosh! An extremely terrifying sword radiance separated from the Red Fiend sword and charged at Heng's right leg at a terrifying speed. Oh no! Heng was indeed a half-step heaven immortal expert. Ningyu sensed that something was wrong the moment he slashed out the sword radiance. He could feel that the sword radiance that Ningyu slashed out was very terrifying. Its power was no weaker than the attack of a half-step heaven immortal expert. In a moment of desperation, Heng grabbed a peak earth immortal realm martial artist beside him and threw him towards the sword radiance. Heng also quickly retracted his right leg to prevent the sword radiance from cutting it. Crack! Hung's reaction was fast enough. Just as he retracted his right leg, Ningyu's sword radiance slashed at the peak Earth Immortal Realm martial artist's chest. An extremely crisp sound was heard. Chapter 1951. Since you're here, don't leave. Seeing that the primordial spirit of the Earth Immortal Realm expert was trying to escape, Ningyu let go of the Red Devil sword and dashed out. Kai. The Red Devil could devour primordial spirit, and so could the Red Devil sword. Almost instantly, the Red Devil sword arrived in front of the primordial spirit of the Earth Immortal Realm expert. A terrifying suction force gushed out from the sword and sucked the primordial spirit of the Earth Immortal Realm expert in the blink of an eye. Zhongheng, save me. The Earth Immortal Realm expert didn't forget to ask Zhongheng for help before he was sucked into the Red Devil sword. However, Zhongheng had already seen how terrifying Ningyu was. How could he act rashly? He stood where he was and watched the primordial spirit of the Earth Immortal Realm expert being sucked into the Red Devil sword. His face grew darker and darker. In the end, Zhongheng took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Let me introduce myself first. I'm Zhongheng from the Fiend's restaurant. I'm here to look for Zhao Rui's brother. As long as you hand over Zhao Rui's brother, I can let bygones be bygones. I won't pursue the matter of you killing my companion." After the disc's investigation, Zhongheng was certain that Zhao Rui's brother was with Ningyu. Otherwise, the finger on the disc wouldn't be pointing at Ningyu all the time. Zhao Rui's brother? Ningyu frowned. He seemed to have heard the name Zhao Rui before, but he couldn't remember where. What's the name of Zhao Rui's brother? Ningyu asked. Zhao Hang. Zhongheng said coldly. Pa. Hearing this, Ningyu suddenly slapped his thigh and said, I remember now. That kid, Zhao Hang, told me that he has a younger sister named Zhao Rui. I didn't expect that he really has one. Zhao Hang is really with you. Ningyu's reaction confirmed Zhongheng's judgment. As long as he could confirm Zhao Hang's location and take him away before the experts from the Sacred Divine Palace and the Primordial Demon sect arrived, the Fiend's restaurant would be the biggest winner. Hand over Zhao Hang, and I can let bygones be bygones. Zhongheng suppressed the excitement in his heart and said in a deep voice. As you wish. Ningyu shrugged, then opened his storage ring and informed Zhao Hang to come out. Whoosh! Zhao Hang's figure flashed, and he flew out from the storage ring. To be honest, Zhao Hang heaved a sigh of relief when he heard Ningyu ask him to come out. The reason for that was because as time passed, he felt that his younger sister should have arrived at the Myriad Demon Ridge. Right now, he only had one thought in his mind, and that was to quickly find his younger sister, Zhao Rui, and hand over the five-finger saint pill to her. It really is you. After Zhao Hang appeared, the needle on the disc in Zhongheng's hand kept shaking. Finally, it left the disc and rushed toward Zhao Hang. Ka. How could Ningyu allow the needle to do as it pleased? He swung the red demon sword in his hand lightly and casually cut the needle in half. He seems to know where your younger sister is. After cutting the needle, Ningyu pointed at Zhongheng and said to Zhao Hang, why don't I capture him and you interrogate him yourself? All right. Although Zhao Hang really wanted to know what had happened to his younger sister, he had not lost his rationality. He was only a sage-level martialist. The pressure that Zhongheng exerted on him was so great that it was terrifying. One might not have eaten pork before, but they had seen pigs run. From Zhongheng, Zhao Hang could feel the pressure of the human demon. It was impossible for him to pose a threat to Zhongheng by himself. The only thing he could do now was pray that Ningyu could defeat Zhongheng. You want to capture me? Zhongheng casually tossed the disc in his hand and said coldly, I advise you not to do that. I am the attendant of the Myriad Demon restaurant. Offending me is equivalent to offending the Myriad Demon restaurant. You should think about it carefully. Noisy. Ningyu could not be bothered to waste words with Zhongheng. If not for the fact that the person Zhongheng was looking for was related to Zhao Hang, Ningyu would have made his move long ago. Why would he wait until now? Ningyu's figure flashed as he charged at Zhao Hang with the red demon sword in his hand. Humph. Refusing a toast only to drink a forfeit. Seeing Ningyu charge at him, Zhongheng snorted coldly and said, The three of you go and capture Zhao Hang. I will hold him back. Hold me back. Can you hold me back? The essence in Ningyu's body surged as he poured all of it into the red demon sword. Although the red demon sword's might had decreased significantly without the red demon sword, it was still not a problem for Ningyu to deal with the half-baked Zhong Heng if he used his full strength. Slash. Ningyu arrived in front of Zhong Heng in an instant and slashed down with the red demon sword. Not good, come back quickly. Ningyu's attack caused Zhong Heng's expression to change drastically. At this moment, Zhong Heng finally realized his own problem. He was no match for Ningyu. In fact, he could not even block a single slash. Zhao Hang could be captured later, but if he was killed by Ningyu, the situation would be different. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. At Zhong Heng's roar, the three martial artists at the peak of the Earth Immortal Realm turned around and charged at Ningyu. Phew. Seeing the three martial artists at the peak of the Earth Immortal Realm retreat, Zhao Hang could not help but heave a sigh of relief. His cultivation was only at the Sage Realm. Let alone martial artists at the peak of the Earth Immortal Realm, even the weakest early-stage martial artists could easily kill him. If it was not for Ningyu's timely action and the three martial artists at the peak of the Earth Immortal Realm, he would have been captured. Crack! The red demon sword in Ningyu's hand slashed down fiercely. The red demon sword slashed the void in half and hit the Yuan Qi protective shield in front of Zhong Heng. Zhong Heng was only the weakest half-step Heaven Immortal Realm martial artist. How could the Yuan Qi protective shield he had cast withstand the impact of Ningyu's sword? There was a crisp sound of cracking. Then, a long and thin crack appeared on the Yuan Qi protective shield in front of Zhong Heng. Moreover, the crack was getting longer and longer, spreading rapidly in all directions. Crack, crack, crack. In a short moment, the Yuan Qi protective shield in front of Zhong Heng shattered. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. At this moment, three martial artists at the peak of the Earth Immortal Realm arrived in front of Zhong Heng. Fart, fart. The three martial artists at the peak of the Earth Immortal Realm had to pay the price of vomiting blood to block Ningyu's sword. Go to hell. After the attack, Ningyu did not stop. He waved the red demon sword in his hand and chased after them. Rumble. However, before Ningyu charged out, he heard a rumbling sound. Ningyu's expression changed slightly when he heard the sound. Human immortal tribulation. Without a doubt, the human immortal tribulation of the Dark Emperor and the others had reached the most critical moment. If they survived it, the lightning pool might appear and they would be baptized by the tribulation liquid. If they failed, they would vanish into thin air. Ha ha ha. The tribulation clouds that blotted out the heavens and the earth in midair in the distance naturally couldn't escape Zhong Heng's eyes. Zhong Heng rolled his eyes and burst into laughter as he said to Ningyu. Chapter 1952. Humph. If you want to break into their tribulation cloud, you'll have to see if you have the ability to do so. Ningyu snorted and sped up again. He waved the red devil sword in his hand and slashed out 4 rays of sword radiance in an instant. Swish, swish, swish. 3 rays of sword radiance rushed towards 3 peak Earth Immortal experts. Swish. As for the last ray of sword radiance, it attached itself to the red devil sword and followed Ningyu's footsteps. In the blink of an eye, it was in front of Heng. Damn it. Heng didn't expect Ningyu to be so bold and choose to attack at such a critical moment. One should know that once someone broke into the human immortal tribulation, Ningyu's friends might vanish into thin air in an instant. After cursing in his heart, Heng quickly retreated, trying to temporarily avoid the terrifying sword radiance that followed Ningyu. However, Heng obviously underestimated the power of this sword radiance. Crack. The space first trembled, then suddenly split in the middle and a huge crack appeared. The crack spread rapidly and reached Heng's feet in an instant. Block it. At the critical moment, Heng roared desperately and forced out several drops of blood essence from his body. No matter what, Zhong Heng was a half-step Heaven Immortal expert. The drops of blood essence formed several blood-red protective nets in front of him. Under the resistance of the protective nets, the sword radiance that Ningyu slashed out with all his strength actually showed a slight pause. Ha 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 ha. Feeling that the blood-red protective nets on his body had blocked the impact of the sword radiance, Hung couldn't help but throw his head back and laugh wildly. In the process of laughing, Hung said to Ningyu coldly, "Now that you're being held up by me, the other 3 peak Earth immortal experts will soon interfere with your friend's human immortal tribulation and bury them in the tribulation cloud." "Is that so?" In the face of Zhong Heng's arrogance, the corners of Ningyu's mouth rose, and he gave a faint response. "You might as well open your eyes and see how the 3 peak Earth immortal experts are going to interfere with my friend's tribulation." Whoosh. As soon as Ningyu finished speaking, Zhong Heng hurriedly shifted his gaze. Hiss. Zhong Heng sucked in a breath of cold air when he saw what it was. Instead of interfering with Ningyu's friend's heavenly tribulation, the 3 peak Earth immortals lay on the ground like dead dogs, foaming at the mouth, and their eyes were dull. "What's going on?" Zhong Heng roared. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. "Killing a peak Earth immortal is as easy as killing a dog for me now." Ningyu's indifferent words gave Heng an explanation. Given Ningyu's current strength, it was indeed very easy for him to kill a peak Earth immortal expert. Moreover, the few Earth immortal peak experts that Zhong Heng brought along weren't peerless geniuses. Their strength was many times weaker than Luo Shireha. Before Ningyu completely swallowed and refined the heavenly tribulation liquid, he was already capable of easily defeating Luo Shireha, let alone dealing with a few weak peak earthly immortal realm martial artists now. "Good, very good, very good." Zhong Heng took a deep breath and said coldly, "Aren't you powerful? I'd like to see how you're going to resist these things." Swoosh. As Zhong Heng said the word things, he flicked his sleeves and several rays of cold light flew out. Primordial spirit. As soon as the cold light flew out from Zhong Heng's sleeves, Ningyu realized that something was wrong and exclaimed. Looking carefully, there were a total of 10 primordial spirits that flew out. Actually, what surprised Ningyu was not the number of primordial spirits, but the fact that all of them were at the half-step heaven immortal realm. How terrifying would it be when the primordial spirits of 10 half-step heaven immortal realm experts launched an attack at the same time? Although Ningyu was very confident in his strength, he wasn't very sure that he could resist the attack of 10 terrifying primordial spirits at this time. Moreover, what worried Ningyu the most was that Zhong Heng had separated 5 of the primordial spirits to interfere with Ninglu and the Dark Emperor's tribulation and separated 3 primordial spirits to stop him. As for the last 2 primordial spirits, Zhong Heng had arranged for them to capture Zhao Hang. Although the primordial spirits of half-step heaven immortals were slightly weaker than those of half-step heaven immortals, they should not be underestimated. Ningyu thought that it would take him at least a few seconds to get rid of the 3 primordial spirits of half-step heaven immortals. And in these few seconds, anything could happen. Including the Dark Emperor's tribulation being interrupted, Zhao Hang being captured, and so on. Damn it! Ningyu cursed in his heart and then hurriedly sent a voice transmission to the human demon and Xiao Xian. "Give me 5 seconds. You must resist the 5 primordial spirits of half-step heaven immortals. Don't worry." In fact, there was no need for Ningyu to say that. The human demon and Xiao Xian were already prepared. Of the 5 primordial spirits of half-step heaven immortals, the human demon could handle 4 by himself. As for the last one, he left it to Xiao Xian. Boom. Seeing that the matter was settled, what happened next made Ningyu's expression change drastically. With a loud boom, a primordial spirit suddenly exploded. The explosion of the primordial spirit of half-step heaven immortals was comparable to the self-detonation of a peak earth immortal. Poochie. In just a moment, Xiao Xian was hit in the chest by the terrifying impact. His body was sent flying several feet away and he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. A suicidal attack. In order to put pressure on Ningyu as soon as possible, Zhong Heng did not hesitate to detonate his primordial spirits one after another. Boom! Boom! After the first primordial spirit exploded, Zhong Heng detonated 2 more. The explosion of these 2 primordial spirits made the human demon suffer. He was originally fighting against 4 primordial spirits. Now that 2 primordial spirits exploded, he was in great pain. "Break for me." What happened in the distance naturally did not escape Ningyu's eyes. He roared at the sky, and the red demon's sword in his hand quickly slashed down and waved repeatedly. Because Ningyu used all his strength and did not hesitate to burn his blood essence to fight against the 3 primordial spirits in front of him, it only took him a second to cut the 3 primordial spirits in half. Come back. The sudden change made Zhong Heng's expression change drastically. He hurriedly shouted at the 2 primordial spirits that were rushing towards Zhao Hang. Swish! Swish! The 2 primordial spirits had originally controlled Zhao Hang, but when they heard Zhong Heng's order, they had no choice but to return to fight Ningyu. Go to hell! Ningyu was eager to go back to help the human demon and the others, so he spat out a few more drops of blood essence and slashed out another 2 terrifying sword rays. Kachacha. Reality proved that the attack that Ningyu had unleashed by burning his blood essence was extremely powerful. The 2 primordial spirits only lasted for 0.1 seconds before they were cut in half. After cutting the primordial spirits, Ningyu did not kill them all. Instead, he hurriedly rushed towards the human demon's battlefield. Rumble. However, at this moment, a sudden change occurred. 3 terrifying tribulation clouds suddenly descended from the 9 heavens. They intertwined and smashed towards the Dark Emperor and the others. Chapter 1953. Damn it. The changes in the distance caused Ningyu's expression to change drastically. What he was worried about had come true. What Ningyu had been worried about was that someone would barge into their human immortal tribulation, causing the power of the tribulation clouds to increase exponentially. For this, Ningyu did not hesitate to burn his essence blood to fight against the half-step heaven immortal primordial spirit released by Heng. However, Ningyu did not expect that the last tribulation cloud of the Dark Emperor and the other 2 would interweave together. Under normal circumstances, the last tribulation cloud's power would at most be equivalent to a full-powered strike from a late-stage Earth immortal martial artist. But the current situation, the 3 tribulation clouds interweaved together, and the power was close to a full-stage Earth immortal. In other words, the last tribulation cloud needed the combined power of Dark Emperor and Ninglu to block it. If they blocked it, everyone would be happy. If they couldn't block it, it would disappear. Go. Seeing that Ningyu's attention was slightly diverted, Heng decided to retreat first. With Ningyu, this freak, around, even if he brought 2 more half-step heaven immortal experts, they could forget about taking Zhao Hang away. The only thing he could do now was to return to the Fiend restaurant and tell the higher-ups about this and let them decide. It was basically impossible for him to take Zhao Hang away by himself. Whoosh. Although he wanted to retreat, Heng was not a stupid person. Before he retreated, he decided to fight fiercely. With a surge of his mind, Heng secretly communicated with the 4 primordial spirits that were fighting with the human demon, ordering them to launch suicidal attacks towards Dark Emperor and Ninglu. Anyway, with Ningyu around, he couldn't take the primordial spirits away. Since he couldn't take them away, he might as well let them all launch suicidal attacks and cause some trouble for Ningyu. Ningyu, let's wait and see. Heng glared at Ningyu fiercely, then stomped on the ground and fled quickly. Kai. In order to leave this area as soon as possible, Heng could be said to have used all his strength. I'll deal with you later. Ningyu knew that Heng had escaped. But now, he really couldn't split himself to deal with Heng. The combination of the 3 tribulations was comparable to the full power strike of a half-step heaven immortal. Ninglu and the Dark Emperor might not be able to withstand it. Ningyu's thinking was very simple. If the Dark Emperor and the others were truly unable to withstand it, even if he had to risk his life, he would have to charge into the tribulation clouds to ensure the safety of the Dark Emperor and the others. But before that, Ningyu first had to deal with the 4 primordial spirits of half-step heaven immortals. Kill him. Ningyu repeatedly swung the red demon sword in his hand. Several rays of sword light flew out and charged towards the 4 origin spirits. Poochie. However, before Ningyu's sword beam could even approach the 4 nascent souls, the human devil in the distance coughed up a mouthful of blood and was sent flying several feet away. No matter how fast Ningyu was, the distance between him and the 4 nascent divinities was much greater than that of the human devil. If it weren't for the human devil desperately resisting, the 4 nascent divinities would have already entered the tribulation clouds. The human devil was severely injured, but he had bought precious time for Ningyu. In an instant, Ningyu's sword beam caught up with the 4 nascent divinities and slashed down fiercely. Crack, crack, crack. Under the attack of Ningyu's terrifying sword beam, 3 of the nascent divinities were shattered into 2 halves on the spot. Swoosh. However, the last wisp of primordial spirit managed to dodge Ningyu's firepower net and rushed towards the sky with all its might. Oh no! Ningyu's expression changed drastically. Once the last nascent divinity entered the tribulation clouds, the consequences would be unimaginable. Whoosh! At this moment, a figure suddenly leaped up and arrived in front of the last nascent divinity before Ningyu. Xiao Xian. Without a doubt, this figure was none other than Xiao Xian. In order to obtain the heavenly tribulation liquid from Ningyu, Xiao Xian did not hesitate to burn his life to block the last nascent divinity. Poof! Under Xiao Xian's desperate resistance, the last nascent divinity was finally blocked. As for Xiao Xian, his aura was weak and he lay on the ground like a dead man. Zhao Hang, go and look after the human devil and Xiao Xian. If anything happens to them, I'll hold you responsible. Seeing that Xiao Xian and the human devil were lying on the ground, Ningyu hurriedly shouted at Zhao Hang. At the same time, Ningyu gave all the heavenly tribulation liquid to Zhao Hang and told him not to be stingy. As long as it could ensure the safety of the human devil and Xiao Xian, it would be fine even if it was used up. Rumble. As soon as Ningyu gave his instructions, the terrifying tribulation clouds in the sky blasted the Dark Emperor and Ninglu. Poof! 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 How could the Dark Emperor and Ninglu withstand the full force attack of a half-step heaven immortal expert? The Dark Emperor and Ninglu were different from Ningyu. Before Ningyu passed the tribulation, his cultivation was at the mid-stage human immortal and his strength was comparable to a late-stage earth immortal or even a peak earth immortal. As for the Dark Emperor and the rest, their cultivation was only at the perfected sage realm. Their overall strength could at most contend with a mid-stage human immortal. Asking them to withstand the tribulation clouds that were equivalent to a half-step heaven immortal's full blow was ridiculous. Vomiting blood was already the best outcome for the Dark Emperor and the rest. No, I have to think of a way. Seeing the Dark Emperor and Ninglu struggling in the sky, Ningyu's expression became more and more serious. Ningyu could see it clearly. If he didn't help, the Dark Emperor and Ninglu would definitely die. And if he helped, the power of the tribulation clouds would increase again and it would be comparable to a heaven immortal's tribulation. Let's do it. Ningyu didn't think too much and quickly made a decision. He couldn't let the Dark Emperor and the rest be in danger no matter what. Swoosh. With that, Ningyu stomped on the ground and his body turned into a sharp sword as he charged out. Ningyu's speed was so fast that the naked eye couldn't see his trajectory. Am I going to die today? In midair, Ninglu's face was green. He was evolved from the world tree. If not for the tribulation clouds being too strong, they wouldn't be able to hurt him. Beside Ninglu, the Dark Emperor and Red Devil had ugly expressions too. Unless there was a miracle, all 3 of them would die. Rumble. The last terrifying tribulation cloud wreaked havoc in the sky as it continuously charged at the protective barrier that the Dark Emperor and Ninglu had created. Catcher. In just an instant, the protective barrier shattered. It's over. The moment the protective barrier shattered, the Dark Emperor and Ninglu thought of the same thing at the same time. However, in the blink of an eye, Ningyu wielded the red demon sword and charged into the tribulation clouds like a god of war. Slash. As he shouted, the red devil sword in Ningyu's hand slashed at the terrifying tribulation clouds. Catcher. With Ningyu's current strength, it didn't take much effort to slash a half-step heaven immortal's tribulation cloud. Phew. After slashing the tribulation clouds, Ningyu couldn't help but let out a long sigh. Chapter 1954. Rumble. However, before Ningyu could rejoice, a rumbling sound came from the void. Oh no! Hearing this sound, Ningyu's face turned cold, and his heart sank to the bottom. From the looks of it, the power of the lightning tribulation had at least doubled. In other words, The power of the tribulation cloud before was equivalent to the full force attack of a half-step heaven immortal. Then, the power of the tribulation cloud that appeared now should be infinitely close to that of a true heaven immortal. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu pretended to be relaxed and said to the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu, who were still a little confused, "You guys go to the side and wait. I'll deal with the next lightning tribulation." After saying that, without waiting for the Dark Emperor and the others to refuse, Ningyu flicked his wrist, and a gust of wind flew out, forcing the Dark Emperor and the others to retreat to the other side. "Ningyu, I can help you." Seeing that Ningyu had also forced him to retreat, the Red Devil hurriedly said. He was the sword spirit of the Red Devil sword. With him around, the Red Devil sword's power could be maximized. All right. Ningyu wasn't a pretentious person. He knew that there was a tough battle ahead, so he immediately let go of the Red Devil sword. Whoosh! The Red Devil didn't dare to be negligent. As soon as Ningyu let go of him, he dashed out quickly and entered the Red Devil sword. Rumble. Ever since the Red Devil entered the Red Devil sword and became one with it, the void kept rumbling. At first, the rumbling wasn't very loud, but as time passed, the rumbling grew louder and louder. In the end, the rumbling reached a deafening level. Although the rumbling was loud, it didn't affect Ningyu. Ningyu floated in midair, his head raised, and his eyes fixed on the vortex that appeared in the sky. He could tell that the tribulation cloud in the vortex was the last one. The power of this tribulation cloud should be infinitely close to the full force attack of a heaven immortal. Ningyu's expression was solemn, thinking about how to deal with it later. Meet force with force? Definitely not. After all, he had just experienced a huge battle. At this moment, the essence in his body was not particularly abundant. Although he was recovering at every moment, he was still not at his peak. Run! That was even more unacceptable. The lightning tribulation had already locked onto him, tacitly acknowledging that the four of them were within the range of the tribulation cloud. Even if he ran to the ends of the earth, the tribulation clouds would still catch up and descend upon him. Myriad embodiment transformation? Obviously, he couldn't either. Ka. Just as Ningyu was thinking about how to deal with the last tribulation cloud, the void split open and the last tribulation cloud suddenly descended. Above Ningyu's head, the tribulation cloud was like a cheetah. In an instant, it approached Ningyu and fiercely smashed towards Ningyu's head. In this perilous situation, Ningyu hurriedly moved sideways and chose to use his body to temporarily block the impact of the tribulation cloud. However, Ningyu was not a hothead. He definitely wouldn't fight head-on. While using his body to resist the tribulation cloud, his body rapidly descended, wanting to use speed to offset the huge force. Crack, crack, crack. However, Ningyu had obviously underestimated the power of the tribulation cloud. In just one exchange, 3 of his bones had been broken. How the F***ck can I block this? Ningyu was dumbfounded. The Dark Emperor was dumbfounded. Ning Lu was dumbfounded. Even the human demon, Zhao Hang, and the others nearby were dumbfounded. The power of this tribulation cloud was at least equivalent to the full force attack of a peak half-step heaven immortal. With Ningyu's overall strength, he could only kill a mid-level half-step heaven immortal. Ningyu was also helpless against a peak half-step heaven immortal. Can Ningyu block it? Xiao Xian endured the pain all over his body and stared at Ningyu. Strictly speaking, he definitely can't block it. The human demon shook his head. There was probably no one present who knew the power of the tribulation cloud better than the human demon. After all, in a high-level plane, the human demon was a real sky immortal. The human demon knew that some sky immortals with imperfect Dao power couldn't exert an attack equivalent to this tribulation cloud. Is there anything we can do to help? We can't just stand here and watch, right? Xiao Xian said hurriedly. His original intention was to get a cup of tribulation liquid. In the end, Ningyu gave the liquid to Zhao Hang, and Zhao Hang gave it to him and the human demon without reservation. In the end, he and the human demon each got a few cups of tribulation liquid. Therefore, Xiao Xian wanted to help Ningyu from the bottom of his heart. Help? How? The human demon said in a deep voice. The power of the tribulation cloud is almost as strong as the full force attack of a sky immortal. If we go in, how strong will the tribulation cloud be? It wasn't that the human demon didn't want to help, but he really couldn't. In fact, according to the human demon's opinion, he would never agree with Ningyu helping the Dark Emperor and the others. 3 deaths were better than 4, right? Hearing the human demon's words, Xiao Xian opened his mouth, but in the end, he could only sigh softly and silently pray that a miracle would happen. Crack, crack, crack. In just a few seconds, 3 more bones in Ningyu's body were broken. Fortunately, Ningyu's body had been tempered many times. True dragon blood, Kirin blood, world tree, and so on. Otherwise, with the strength of Ningyu's body, all the bones in his body would have been broken. Red Demon Sword, open. Ningyu held the Red Demon Sword and slashed with all the strength in his body. This sword was the most powerful attack that Ningyu could exert in his life. If even this sword could not withstand the tribulation cloud, then Ningyu could only resign himself to fate. Boom! As soon as the Red Demon Sword came into contact with the tribulation cloud, there was a muffled sound as if something in his body had been unlocked. After the muffled sound, an extremely terrifying devouring power erupted from the Red Demon Sword. Swoosh! In the blink of an eye, something happened that shocked everyone. Under the terrifying devouring power, the tribulation cloud did not even last for a second before it was sucked into the Red Demon Sword. Gulp! The sudden change caused Ningyu to involuntarily swallow a mouthful of saliva. The lightning tribulation had ended. Looking up at the calm sky, Ningyu was still a little confused. No matter how he thought about it, he could never have imagined such an ending. What was inside the Red Demon Sword? Why could it have such a terrifying devouring power? Ningyu was puzzled. Buzz, buzz. However, before the confusion in Ningyu's heart could be solved, the void trembled. Immediately after, a huge lightning pool appeared. This pool of lightning is even bigger than mine, Ningyu exclaimed. The power of his human immortal tribulation was only equivalent to the attack of a mid-level half-step heaven immortal. But the power of this lightning tribulation had increased by a whole level. Dark Emperor, you guys come here. Go to the pool of lightning and accept the baptism of the lightning tribulation fluid. Ningyu turned around and stared at the Dark Emperor and Ninglu. Swish. However, at this moment, something strange happened. Chapter 1955. Oh no. Ningyu's expression changed when he saw the thunderbolt pool getting dimmer. They had been through a lot of danger in order to successfully pass the mortal-immortal tribulation. Xiao Xian and the human demon were both severely injured and their auras were weak. Even he had burned a lot of his blood essence, so he wasn't in his peak condition. After spending so much effort to pass the tribulation, the thunderbolt pool suddenly disappeared when it was time to pick the fruits. How could he tolerate that? Ningyu obviously couldn't. Whoosh! Ningyu stomped on the ground and rushed out at a shocking speed. His target was the thunderbolt pool that was faintly discernible in the sky. What's going on? The Dark Emperor and the others knew that the thunderbolt pool was about to disappear. However, they were very confused about the thunderbolt pool's disappearance. They had never heard of the thunderbolt pool disappearing before they even started to be baptized by the thunderbolt pool after passing the tribulation. Boom! At this moment, Ningyu had already approached the faintly discernible thunderbolt pool with the Red Demon Sword in his hand. Come out! Ningyu stabbed out with his sword, stabbing towards the void at the edge of the lightning pool. Crack! A crisp sound was heard as the thunderbolt pool appeared in front of Ningyu once again. Let's go too. Seeing the lightning pool appear, the Dark Emperor and Ninglu looked at each other, then leaped up and charged out. After all, it was their mortal-immortal tribulation. They had a temper now that the thunderbolt pool had disappeared. After successfully passing the mortal-immortal tribulation, the Dark Emperor and Ninglu's cultivation had reached the mid-stage mortal-immortal realm. When they were at the perfected sage realm, they could already fight against mid-stage mortal-immortals. Now that they had reached the mid-stage mortal-immortal realm, their battle prowess had increased a lot. Whoosh! Perhaps Ninglu and the Dark Emperor's attack had angered the thunderbolt pool. The thunderbolt pool shook its body in mid-air, avoiding Ningyu's attacks and charging at the Dark Emperor and Ninglu. Poof! Poof! The Dark Emperor and Ninglu were knocked back dozens of feet with just one attack. Their bodies landed heavily on the ground and they spat out mouthfuls of blood. Achem! This lightning pool seems to be alive. The sudden change caused Ningyu's expression to change slightly. The disappearance of the lightning pool had already surprised him. Now that it had taken the initiative to attack the person undergoing the tribulation, he was even more puzzled. Forget it, I can't waste such a good opportunity. Shaking his head forcefully, Ningyu tossed all these thoughts out of his mind. He then combusted his essence blood to increase his speed. In the blink of an eye, he arrived beside the thunder pool. Pa! Pa! Ningyu did something that surprised everyone. He stretched out his arms and hugged the lightning pool tightly. Ningyu knew that a lightning pool like this would definitely escape into the void once the time was up. Today, he wanted to see what kind of tricks this giant pool of lightning was playing. Bang, bang, bang. Being held in Ningyu's arms, the lightning pool seemed to have suffered a great humiliation, and it began to shake violently. Every time the lightning pool shook, Ningyu felt like he was being smashed in the chest by 1,000 or even 10,000 catty boulder. Fut fut. The first few collisions, Ningyu could still take it. However, as time went on, Ningyu gradually felt that he was losing strength. In the end, he even vomited blood, and his entire chest was dyed red. Come out obediently. Ningyu made up his mind and took out the red fiend sword, wanting to store all the lightning tribulation fluid in the lightning pool into the sword. Since the red fiend sword could devour terrifying tribulation clouds, storing the lightning tribulation fluid was naturally not a problem. Buzz! Seeing the red fiend sword approach, the lightning pool seemed to be greatly agitated, and it began to shake even more violently. The lightning pool is afraid of the red fiend sword. Ningyu instantly understood. No wonder the lightning pool appeared and disappeared. It was afraid of the red fiend sword. Ningyu could not help but feel curious about the red fiend sword. The red fiend sword could devour tribulation clouds and primordial spirits. Furthermore, it could continuously increase its level. Now that he thought about it, the red fiend sword was indeed very mysterious. Since the lightning pool was afraid of the red fiend sword, Ningyu had to hold onto the lightning tribulation fluid even if he had to suffer serious injuries, because only by holding onto the lightning pool, the red fiend sword could devour the lightning tribulation fluid in the lightning pool. Only then could the Dark Emperor and Ninglu receive the baptism. Whoosh! Although Ningyu did not dare to say that no one would be able to do it in the future, at the very least, it was unprecedented. What was the lightning pool? Since ancient times, very few people had seen the lightning pool, let alone understood it. Now that Ningyu had the chance to hold onto the lightning pool, he naturally had to admire it. Whoosh! However, even a clay figurine would have some anger, let alone the terrifying lightning pool. Before Ningyu could observe the lightning pool in detail, the lightning pool suddenly scuttled out from Ningyu's chest and poured out all the lightning tribulation fluid. Time's up. Seeing the lightning pool pour out the lightning tribulation fluid, Ningyu's first thought was that time was up and the lightning pool had to disappear. But how could Ningyu let go of such a rare opportunity? He allowed the lightning tribulation fluid to drip on his head, grabbed the red fiend sword with his right hand and slashed at the lightning pool. When the lightning pool was about to disappear, it was at its weakest. What Ningyu wanted to do was to make the lightning pool leave something behind. What is he doing? Ningyu's action made the human demon and Xiao Xian widen their eyes in shock. The other lightning pool was about to leave. Why did you still provoke it? What if it comes back again? Wouldn't you be in serious trouble? Crack. Ningyu did not have time to explain anything. He did not hesitate to use the blood of the god of war body in his heart and injected it into the red fiend sword. While the lightning pool was about to disappear, he slashed at the lightning pool. A crisp sound rang out. The lightning pool disappeared completely, and a palm-sized object fell from the sky. This, looking at the object falling from the sky, the human demon, Xiao Xian, Zhao Hang, and the others all had their mouths wide open. They stood rooted to the ground like idiots, their faces full of disbelief. Apart from the human demon and the others, even the person involved, Ningyu, stood rooted to the ground in a daze. Although he wanted to slash something from the lightning pool, he knew that the success rate was less than 1 in 10,000. But it was precisely this 1 in 10,000 chance of success that he had encountered. Ding! At this moment, the object that fell from the lightning pool hit the ground, emitting a crisp ding sound. Gulp! Ningyu swallowed a mouthful of saliva, then quickly moved to the palm-sized object and picked it up from the ground. It looks like a piece of metal, but also like a rock. Ningyu looked at the object in his hand and frowned as he murmured. After thinking for a while, Ningyu used the red fiend sword to slash at the lightning pool's leftover material. However, no matter how hard Ningyu tried, he could not damage the leftover material at all. This is strange. Ningyu did not understand. Chapter 1956. Let's try my soul power. Ningyu sheathed the red demon sword and his soul power surged out, trying to get close to the leftover material. Hey! Ningyu couldn't help but gasp when he got close. The leftover material actually devoured his soul power. Yuan Qi. Ningyu sent out some more Yuan Qi and let it get close to the leftover material. Without a doubt, the Yuan Qi that Ningyu sent out was also devoured by the leftover material. It's tough, can devour soul power, can devour Yuan Qi. Ningyu fell into deep thought. The weird leftover material was a bit hard to understand. Never mind, I'll keep it first. Since he couldn't see through the leftover material, Ningyu might as well keep it. After all, this place had just experienced a huge battle, it wasn't a good idea to stay here. Plus, the Dark Emperor and Ninglu hadn't gone through the baptism of the lightning tribulation fluid. He could find a place for them to be baptized and recuperate for a while. Let's go. Ningyu did things swiftly and decisively, without the slightest bit of hesitation. He waved his hand, collecting all the scattered lightning tribulation fluid into the prepared container, then leaped up and flew towards the direction of the City of Demons. Voila! Not long after Ningyu's group disappeared, the void in this area trembled, then several figures appeared. If Ningyu was here, he would definitely be shocked. Because their cultivation bases were all at the half-step heaven immortal realm, every one of their combat power wasn't any weaker than Heng, who had just escaped. We just experienced a huge battle, they should have just left not long ago. A grey-clothed, red-haired old woman said. Another slightly chubby man wearing a bamboo hat added, the battle was very intense, at least half-step heaven immortals. What should we do? Someone asked. The old woman looked around and said, let's return to the City of Demons first. Zhao Rui's brother Zhao Hang must have been taken away by the people of the Demons restaurant. There's no need to waste time here, we'll talk again in 3 days. Wang Wang. After speaking, the old lady and the rest entered the void and disappeared. After the old woman and the others left, several more groups of people appeared in this area. But without a doubt, no one stayed here for more than a minute. Everyone left after a few glances. It seemed that things were really as the old woman had said. They would meet again in 3 days. Bang! Bang! At the same time, 2 muffled sounds came from a dense forest to the west of the City of Demons. Then, 2 terrifying auras soared into the sky and hovered for a few seconds before dissipating. Not bad. Looks like the more terrifying the lightning tribulation, the better the effect of the lightning tribulation fluid. Sensing the aura of the Dark Emperor and Ninglu, Ningyu nodded in satisfaction. After leaving that area, Ningyu's original intention was to go to the City of Devils first, and then think of a way to let the Dark Emperor and Ninglu accept the baptism of the Thunder Tribulation fluid. But halfway there, the Dark Emperor and the others started to gulp down the Thunder Tribulation fluid. With this gulp, in just a few minutes, the Dark Emperor and Ninglu's cultivation rose, from the intermediate human celestial stage to the full circle of human celestial stage, the same as Ningyu. Ningyu, eat my fist. After retracting his aura, Ninglu clenched his right fist and punched towards Ningyu. Me too. Seeing Ninglu attack, the Dark Emperor leaped out and used his tail to sweep towards Ningyu. Okay, let me see how strong you are. Ningyu didn't retreat and faced it head-on. Along the way, not only did the Dark Emperor and Ninglu swallow the thunder tribulation fluid, even Ningyu drank a few mouthfuls. After a few mouthfuls, not long later, Ningyu's strength recovered to its peak. Otherwise, how would Ningyu dare to fight the Dark Emperor and Ninglu head-on? Peng! Ningyu first exchanged a punch with Ninglu before raising his right leg and kicking towards the Dark Emperor's tail. After that move, Ninglu and the Dark Emperor retreated until they were far away before they stabilized their bodies. On the other hand, Ningyu stood on the spot like nothing had happened. After the battle with the lightning pool, Ningyu seemed to have comprehended something and his strength increased a little. Moreover, he drank a few mouthfuls of the thunder tribulation fluid and went through the baptism twice, so his strength increased by a lot. In the past, although Ningyu was strong, he definitely had no way to defend against those terrifying veteran half-step heaven celestials. But now, even those veteran experts who had been in the half-step heaven celestial stage for many years might not be a match for Ningyu. Only those top geniuses from the big sects, who relied on their own comprehension to advance to the half-step heaven celestial stage, would be able to exchange a few blows with Ningyu. Of course, it was only limited to a few blows and it would be hard to defeat Ningyu. "How are you so strong?" Ninglu and the Dark Emperor exclaimed. One had to know that when the two of them joined forces, their battle prowess surpassed many half-step heaven celestial stage powerhouses. After all, one was the world tree and the other was the heaven-devouring dog. But even so, they couldn't hurt Ningyu in the slightest even when they joined forces. Ningyu's strength has surpassed most half-step heaven celestial stage powerhouses. He can even exchange a few blows with an incomplete heaven celestial stage powerhouse. The human demon walked over and explained, ordinary half-step heaven celestial stage powerhouses are divided into 3 levels: low half-step heaven celestial stage, middle half-step heaven celestial stage, and high half-step heaven celestial stage. But Ningyu has surpassed this category and reached the peak of half-step heaven celestial stage. At this point, the human demon paused for a moment before continuing. Peak half-step heaven celestial stage, in the higher planes, can only be reached by major factions or descendants of powerful families. The Dark Emperor and Ninglu paused and then said in unison, "You mean to say that Ningyu already has the ability to fight against a true heaven celestial stage powerhouse?" The human demon nodded and didn't say anything. Then, Ningyu said, all right. Hurry up and pack. We still have to go to the City of Demons." There were 2 main reasons why Ningyu chose to go to the City of Demons. First, he wanted to find Heng and kill him. Second, he wanted to help Zhao Hang save his sister, Zhao Rui. Neither of these matters were simple, but fortunately, Ningyu's strength had increased by another level, so he was more than confident in this trip to the City of Demons. Moreover, after the human demon consumed the tribulation fluid, the hidden injury left behind by the heaven celestial stage powerhouse had healed considerably. His current battle prowess had reached the level of a high half-step heaven celestial stage powerhouse. Ningyu was a peak half-step heaven celestial stage powerhouse, the human demon was a high half-step heaven celestial stage powerhouse, and the Dark Emperor and Ninglu were middle half-step heaven celestial stage powerhouses. If the few of them joined forces, they could occupy a small territory in a higher plane. If such a force couldn't gain a foothold in the City of Demons, it would be too terrifying. Slap. At the same time, in a room of the Demon Tavern in the City of Demons. There were only 2 warriors in the room. Chapter 1957. Elder Jiang, it's not what you think. Although Zhong Heng had been slapped by the old man, he did not dare to show any dissatisfaction. He hurriedly explained, "We had already found Zhao Rui's brother, Zhao Hang. But who would have thought that we would meet 3 people who were undergoing their great tribulation of human immortal? Moreover, there were a few people who were helping them. Don't talk nonsense with me." Before Zhong Heng could finish his words, Elder Jiang waved his hand and interrupted him. He said coldly, "You didn't complete your mission. You can be spared from death, but you can't escape punishment. From now on, you will be stripped of your status as a deacon on the 1st floor of the Fiend Restaurant. You will be demoted to an ordinary disciple." Rumble. When Elder Jiang's words entered Zhongheng's ears, it was as if he had been struck by lightning, causing him to be stunned on the spot with a face full of disappointment. The highest position in the Fiend restaurant was naturally the core divine princes. The second highest position was an elder like Elder Jiang. The third highest position was a deacon like Zhongheng. The lowest position was an ordinary disciple. Although the difference between an ordinary disciple and a deacon was only one level, the treatment they received was like heaven and earth. An ordinary disciple was the vanguard. All the dirty and tiring work was left to them. As for deacons, they could enjoy certain benefits, such as cultivation resources, and so on. Being demoted from a deacon to an ordinary disciple was like a phoenix turning into a pheasant, falling from the clouds to the mortal world. Get lost. Elder Jiang fiercely glared at Zhongheng and said, "Go to the gate tower and stand guard. If there's any movement, inform me immediately." Yes. Zhongheng did not dare to delay. He hurriedly ran toward the gate tower. Buzz. However, after Zhongheng disappeared, the void beside Elder Jiang suddenly trembled. Then, a young martial artist appeared. How are the preparations for the gathering in 3 days? The young martial artist did not beat around the bush and asked directly. Don't worry, Divine Sun Lin. Everything has been prepared. I guarantee that they won't be able to return, Elder Jiang said hurriedly. The young martial artist called Divine Sun Lin nodded and said, the sect has given the order. We must get Zhao Rui. Buzz. Buzz. As soon as he finished speaking, Divine Sun Lin's figure gradually merged with the void and disappeared. At the same time, at the main entrance of the City of Fiends, swish, a group of 4 to 5 martial artists appeared. These 4 or 5 martial artists were none other than Ning Yu and the Dark Emperor who had rushed over. In order to prevent others from recognizing Zhao Hang, Ning Yu chose to have Zhao Hang hide in his storage ring for the time being. The only people left outside were him, the Dark Emperor, Ning Lu, the human demon, and Xiao Xian. As for the Red Devil, Ning Yu did not choose to disturb him. Instead, he allowed him to stay in the Red Devil sword and slowly recuperate. After all, the Red Demon sword had swallowed a terrifying tribulation cloud and a great deal of precious tribulation fluid. From Ning Yu's point of view, the Red Demon sword would not be able to completely digest that terrifying tribulation cloud and a lot of tribulation liquid. The excess would definitely be given to the Red Demon sword. In other words, when Hong Mo emerged from the Red Demon sword, his cultivation would at least be at the great perfection of the human immortal realm. Xiao Xian, how much do you know about the City of Devils? Ning Yu turned around and looked at Xiao Xian. The City of Devils was very close to the 10,000 Demon Ridge. Experts that descended from a high plane like Xiao Xian would mostly gather in the City of Devils. Therefore, Xiao Xian should know more about the City of Devils. There are many experts in the City of Devils. Looking at the magnificent city tower before him, Xiao Xian took a deep breath and said, we shouldn't show our true faces on this trip. We should first hide and figure out the situation before taking action. There's no need. Even if we want to hide now, it's too late. Ning Yu shook his head and stared ahead as he spoke indifferently. Come out. Whoosh. As soon as Ning Yu finished speaking, a martial artist appeared from the void. Looking closely, this martial artist was none other than Zhongheng, who had escaped from Ning Yu. There's a path to heaven, but you refuse to take it. There's no door to hell, but you barge in. Zhongheng hovered in the air with a gloomy expression. If you're sensible, surrender as soon as possible. Otherwise, I'll let you know what cruelty is. Ha ha ha, let us know what cruelty is. As if he had heard the funniest joke in the world, Ning Yu threw his head back and laughed maniacally. Then, he stomped his feet on the ground and charged out. Whoosh. Ning Yu's speed was very fast. He arrived in front of Zhongheng in the blink of an eye. He clenched his right hand into a fist and threw a punch. Crack. Ning Yu's punch caused the void to explode. The terrifying pressure of the void and his right fist punched towards Zhongheng's head. Elder Jiang, save me, Zhongheng shouted in the face of Ning Yu's fist. The reason why Zhongheng dared to face Ning Yu's attack without dodging was not because his strength had increased, but because he had already informed Elder Jiang. His strength was only a low-grade half-step heaven immortal, while Elder Jiang's strength had reached the mid-grade half-step heaven immortal level. Zhongheng admitted that Ningyu was very strong, but in his opinion, no matter how strong Ningyu was, it was impossible for him to be a mid-grade half-step heaven immortal. Brat, hand over your life. Sure enough, as soon as Zhongheng's voice faded, an old man appeared in front of him. The old man clenched his right hand into a fist and met Ningyu's fist head-on. Crack! In the blink of an eye, the two fists collided with each other. A crisp cracking sound rang out, followed by a figure retreating rapidly. Fart! The figure only stopped after retreating more than 10 meters. Blood spurted out of his mouth, and his aura instantly dropped to the freezing point. Elder Jiang. The sudden change caused Zhongheng's expression to change dramatically. He couldn't help but cry out. Zhongheng would never have thought that Jiang Zhong, a mid-grade half-step heaven immortal, could not even withstand a single strike from Ningyu. Who ordered you to capture Zhao Hang? Ningyu's figure flickered rapidly and arrived beside Zhongheng in the blink of an eye. He grabbed Zhongheng's neck and said coldly, "Bring me there, or die." All right, I'll bring you there. It was the people from the Fiend restaurant who ordered me to capture Zhao Hang. Don't kill me. Zhongheng quickly nodded, afraid that Ningyu would snap his neck if he was any slower. What about him? Before Ningyu set off, the Dark Emperor pointed at Elder Jiang who had fallen to the ground and asked, "Capture him and put him in my spatial ring for you to devour." Ningyu said casually before grabbing Zhongheng and rushing toward the Fiend restaurant. The Dark Emperor and Ninglu, who had reached the perfection stage of the human immortal realm, had completely awakened the power of their bloodline. It was like a fish entering the ocean and a dragon soaring through the 9 heavens. Their devouring ability was already terrifying to begin with, and now their devouring ability had reached its peak. Moreover, Ningyu also knew that although the two of them had reached the perfection stage of the human immortal realm, their strength had yet to reach its peak. Chapter 1958. Ha ha ha, that's exactly what I wanted. Ninglu and the Dark Emperor looked at each other and saw a hint of excitement in each other's eyes. One of them was a world tree and the other was a purple gold sky devouring hound. They were born with high attainments in devouring. Devouring a mid-level half-step heaven immortal? They liked it very much. Senior human demon, isn't it inappropriate for Ningyu to do this? Xiao Xian couldn't help but worry when he saw Ninglu and the Dark Emperor devouring Elder Jiang. Zhongheng was a low-level half-step heaven immortal while Elder Jiang was a mid-level half-step heaven immortal. From this, it could be seen that the Fiend restaurant behind them was very powerful. It wasn't wise to offend the Fiend restaurant at this time. Do you know how strong Ningyu is now? Human demon didn't answer Xiao Xian's question directly. How strong? Xiao Xian was startled at first, then he said, Ningyu's strength is equivalent to a peak half-step heaven immortal. Peak half-step heaven immortal. Haha, to tell you the truth, there's already a trace of great Dao power in Ningyu's body. Human demon sneered. Then, before Xiao Xian could react, human demon's figure flashed and he followed closely behind Ningyu, rushing towards the Fiend restaurant. Boom. Xiao Xian was dumbfounded as he watched human demon leave. His mouth was slightly open and his face was full of disbelief. Great Dao power. An immortal spirit natives might not know about great Dao power, but as an expert from a higher plane, how could he not know about it? When a martial artist advanced from the perfected earth immortal level to the heaven immortal level, their body would condense great Dao power. The more great Dao power condensed in their body, the stronger they would be after advancing to the heaven immortal level. A peak half-step heaven immortal seemed very powerful, but compared to a martial artist who had condensed a trace of great Dao power, it was still a level lower. Xiao Xian's expression was solemn. No wonder Ningyu dared to barge into the Fiend restaurant. He was confident. Xiao Xian did not stay in the same place for long. He quickly followed behind the human demon. Crack. At the same time, inside the horde of Fiend's restaurant, a young martial artist suddenly smashed the jade bottle in his hand to the ground and fiercely said, "You're going too far." This young martial artist was none other than Godchild Lin, who had conversed with Elder Jiang earlier. Godchild Lin received the news of Elder Jiang's death right away. Let me see exactly who dares to make a move against our herd of Devil's Restaurant. As soon as the cold words left his mouth, Godchild Lin stomped his feet on the ground and charged forward. Godchild Lin's idea was very simple. He wanted to go to the city tower to take a look and bring the person who killed Elder Jiang to justice. Voila! Godchild Lin had just arrived at the entrance of the Horde of Fiends restaurant when he discovered a group of 4 to 5 martial artists blocking his way. When Divine Sun Lin saw the 4 or 5 martial artists suddenly appear in front of him, his face instantly turned gloomy. This was because he saw that one of the cultivators was holding the former deacon of the Herd of Fiends restaurant's first floor. Are you the one who killed Elder Jiang and provoked our Devil's Restaurant? Godchild Lin looked coldly at the few people in front of him and asked. The reason why Godchild Lin didn't make a move immediately was because he felt a trace of aura that made his heart palpitate from Ningyu's body. He had only felt this aura from the peerless geniuses in the sect. Godchild Lin wasn't a hothead. Before figuring out the opponent's strength, it was impossible for him to make a move rashly. Where is Zhao Rui? Ningyu went straight to the point and didn't talk nonsense with Godchild Lin. Although Godchild Lin was very powerful and had reached the high-class half-step heaven immortal level, to Ningyu, killing him was no different from crushing an ant. If it wasn't for the fear that Zhao Rui would be harmed, Ningyu would have long made a move and killed Godchild Lin. Why would he wait until now? I'm the one asking you a question. You better answer honestly. Godchild Lin said coldly. Godchild Lin was indeed afraid of Ningyu, but it didn't mean that he was afraid. If Ningyu was still stubborn, he didn't mind making a move and exchanging a few moves with Ningyu and capturing Ningyu. One had to admit that Godchild Lin's way of thinking was very unique and also very bold. He felt the aura of the sect's peerless geniuses on Ningyu's body, yet he still dared to say such words to Ningyu. If he wasn't a fool, then he had a trump card. Noisy. There was a limit to Ningyu's patience. After he confirmed how many experts were in the Fiend restaurant, he finally chose to make a move. Not good. The moment Ningyu made a move, Godchild Lin realized that something was wrong. As expected, Ningyu's strength was very strong and was a whole level higher than him. I can't retreat. But at this time, Godchild Lin had no other choice because he couldn't retreat. The Fiend restaurant's current power wasn't particularly strong. He, a high-grade half-step heaven immortal, could be ranked in the top 3 in the Exorcist restaurant. However, the other 2 experts had left the Exorcist restaurant early in the morning and went to a secret place to set up an altar to receive the other godchildren of the sect. If Godchild Lin retreated at this time, the Fiend restaurant would be completely finished. Therefore, Godchild Lin gritted his teeth and rushed out, wanting to fight Ningyu head-on. Bang! However, Godchild Lin might have underestimated Ningyu's strength and overestimated his own strength. One move. Ningyu only used one move to defeat Godchild Lin. Hiss. Seeing Divine Sun Lin defeated in one move, the surrounding cultivators hidden in the void all sucked in a breath of cold air. Godchild Lin was a high-grade half-step heaven immortal, yet he couldn't even withstand one move from Ningyu. From this, it could be seen that Ningyu's strength was at least a peak half-step heaven immortal. Before the peerless godchild of the sect descended, there were no more than 3 martial artists in the entire city of fiends that could fight against Ningyu. And those 3 martial artists were all in the Heavenly Secret Palace. They were from the Heavenly Secret sect. Of course, this was just a conservative estimate. After all, no one knew if Ningyu was really a peak half-step heaven immortal. His target is Zhao Rui, so he should have a conflict with the people from the Heavenly Secret sect. That's right. Let's wait and see for now. He is very strong. If he can fight with the people from the Heavenly Secret sect, it will save us a lot of trouble. Sit on top of the mountain and watch the tigers fight. Silence. He seems to have found us. Swoosh. After defeating Godchild Lin with one move, Ningyu did not follow up with another attack. Instead, he floated in the air and slowly looked around. The city of fiends is indeed not simple. Although he didn't find any peak half-step heaven immortal experts in the surrounding void, Ningyu still looked solemn. This was because most of the experts in the void had a mid-grade half-step heaven immortal heart, and there were even some high-grade half-step heaven immortals. Although he was not afraid of so many people, it would still be troublesome. After thinking for a while, Ningyu said loudly, "I only have one goal for this trip, and that is to find Zhao Rui. Therefore, I hope that those who are not related to Zhao Rui leave as soon as possible. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless." You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.